Hello and welcome back to the Only Fools Love Horses YouTube channel. It's our Christmas special. All things holy, all things merry this Christmas time. We've got some banging races to cover. We've got grade ones galore from the 26th, 27th, 28th and 29th. And we've got some fantastic guests to come on board. Of course, we've got the usual lots, Harry and Lee. And as you can see in our bottom corner there, we've got Mr. Racing TV, Mr. Let's Talk Racing, Josh Stacey. Josh, are you in good form?
I'm in great form. Thank you very much for having me on. Ash Simmons, Lee Gibson, and Harry Moustache.
Harry Beard, I like it. Now,
it's usually Harry's got no beard. That's what I always get told.
I've enjoyed watching your content over the last month or two on YouTube. Obviously, you do the live streams over on Twitter, which I've been on, and it's been good to watch there. So.
I'll let you to a little secret. Me and Josh were on the phone yesterday. He's been planning that joke all week as a Harry Moustache. So he's been planning that joke all week. So it takes a bit of time to get the cogs going in his brain, you know. Harry, yourself, we've got some good Christmas racing to cover. We've got some fantastic guests, and it should be all good to go forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, apart from the fact it's now taken us 2 minutes and I'm already getting roasted. So we've got a big bumper episode here and I'm going to get nailed for all of it. So there's no point me putting horses up.
It's a real shame, Lee, that we've obviously gone to Let's Talk Racing trying to find someone to come on. Unfortunately, Andrew Blair White was busy, so we've had to settle for Josh. But you know, we'll try bring him along. It should be good to cover some Christmas racing.
I think they're both equally good, actually. But look. It's cracking cards coming up. I think the cogs finally turning and all road obviously to March. But these races, the Irish horses are eventually starting to come out in their drones, so it'll be cracking over Christmas. To be fair.
It will be cracking. And to you eagle-eyed viewers, I have changed the background, some nice Christmassy sort of style. It's took me a good couple of hours to do. As you can see the style. Josh, you can appreciate the work I've done here.
One Christmas pudding, one Santa.
Eagle-eyed, basically people with eyes. You can see that the background's changed.
Yeah, change colours, Santa, all that. Look, it's beautiful. I think you'll agree. Obviously, we'll come to you first, Josh. The Long Walk is the first race we're going to be covering. Obviously, was at Ascot, being changed over to the Kempton Boxing Day card, and Champ is still topping the market 9-4. Paisley Park in there at Freeze, and Miranda, sort of this newcomer into the Stayers division for Paul Nicholls, Harry Cobden, she's 72. What would you be fancying at this early stage for the Long Walk?
This is going to be quite unlike myself because I was looking at it though, and 3 miles and a little bit further around Ascot and 3 miles at Kempton, I think are two very different tasks. And I don't think this will suit Paisley Park. I think it'd be too sharp for him. He likes a big galloping track. He needs to get going late. Champ's an interesting one. I always think he's better off fresh. He's always disappointed in the second run. Last year, he looked great in the Long Walk hurdle at Ascot and then disappointed in the Cleve. So I was looking through and I was going, if there was a bet in this, what would it be? I've always thought that Goshen would be good going up in trip. And he's right. It's right-handed. It's a hurdle race. And he was good at Ascot the last day. He beat Brewing Up a Storm. I think Brewing Up a Storm is a very good marker. I think maybe the ground was slightly too quick for him that day. But I don't think this will be too much of a stamina test for Goshen. It's a good step up to 3 miles, a good opportunity first time out. I think Gary Moore might think about running him because of the change of location. And I think Kempton would suit him. So I can't believe it, but I'm going to put up Goshen for the Long Walk. I think he's 7-1.
7-1. There's a big sort of no from Harry there because he knows what I'm going to put up. We've already talked about his Long Walk multiple times. And we've now had a shout for Goshen, Harry. What do you make of that from Mr. Josh Stacey?
He's brave. It's certainly brave, isn't it? Especially, I mean, I just couldn't trust him. Josh, listen, I would love to see this horse win the Long Walk. I'd love to see him, but I just can't. I can't see him doing it because I just think he's a live wire. I think you're absolutely brave putting your money in on his hopes, but
you say you can't trust him, right? But if you look at the field, can you trust Paisley Park? He jumped off 20 lengths behind them at
No,
Newbury.
I completely understand. I completely understand that, but I think it's brave putting your trust in a horse who is proven to be nuts at times.
The nuts are the best type of people, man.
Yeah, they are. They are. But sometimes I just think that I've always been a big fan of Champ. I've made my case very clear for him. I do agree with Josh. He can disappoint on the second appearance run, but I think this time of year, this is when to catch him right. Now he was really, really good in the Newbury race. John Joe gave him you need to see the ride that John Joe gave him, because people don't give him enough credit
really
for the ride. He timed the sectionals to literally perfection. If he'd have timed his run a little bit later or a little bit earlier, he was beat, because Paisley was coming back like an absolute train, and he's the informed horse. He is. Paisley, I completely agree. This track will not suit him. He tends to get going late, and I think the others will be too quick for him. Is he going to be worth trusting? I don't know what price he is. He's bound to be short, isn't he, champ?
9-4.
He's 9-4, so I mean, he's a bit different. I think he was 6-4 at Ascot, wasn't he? And now he's 9-4. So, listen, I can see Josh's case. I personally wouldn't trust my money lying on Goshen, but if I was signing for one, it would be with Champ, especially with the fact I think this flat track will suit him, and he has an excellent record around this time of year. As we've proved, he's better this time of year than he is in the latter part of the stages. So, for me, it's Champ.
I think John Joe Neal Jr. was very keen to stress that this horse will still be fresh going into his next run, even though he's had that run at Newbury. He's coming into this race because he's had such a long summer off. He will still be fresh coming into this race. So I completely agree. If you're going to catch Champ, it's still fine to catch him at this time of year. Lee, just sort of re-say what you like for the long walk. We spoke about this race multiple times.
We did, and I've kind of put myself off Champ. I like John Joe's comments to say that the horse will still be fresh, but they've had to wait extra time now to Boxing Day. I like Josh's case for Goshen stepping up, to be honest. I don't know if he'll run Botox has as well, but is that horse still in the race or not?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Miranda, she's going to have to step up a notch, and I can't see Not So Sleepy. I can't see your case for that old boy.
I'll say my case in a second.
He's 10 in 11. I can't see it, but I'm the same with the lads. Paisley Park, I think, will struggle, and I'll have to go some to catch Champ and Goshen. I think Goshen I'm going to take Goshen to win, to be fair.
Oh, two for Goshen.
No.
Can we end the show?
He's the head case,
it's madness. It's madness. Honestly, I couldn't. When I was looking at it, I thought, I cannot put this horse up. You just looking at it, and right-handed Kempton hurdle. I think it's him. I don't know why.
I think there'll be a mute button coming on soon. I'm going to give my shout for Not So Sleepy. This is the third time. Must be the third time I'm saying about this horse, but I think he's really interesting at 3 miles. Really, really interesting. The furthest he's tried before is 2.5 miles in the H3 hurdle in 2021. He didn't really go for him that day. There's an argument to say that his flat runs over 2 miles and flat runs over 1.5 will have him right there at 3 miles. We've seen it with the likes of Buzz, who was sort of stepping up from that flat game into the sort of 3 mile staying game over hurdles. And I think in his runs beforehand, like when he was dead heating with Epatante in the fighting fifth, he did that because of his stamina. He didn't do that because of his speed. He got overtaken at the last by both So Royale and Epatante, and he stayed on through both of them, and the pair pulled clear of So Royale. I think that was his stamina sort of testing coming right out there. His runs in the Cesarewitch last year and the season before would put him right here in stamina. And I just think it's a massive price. Like if he was 7-1 or 6-1 or 5-1, he'd be short enough for me just to be like, I'm happy to leave him. But he's 14-1, lads. That's a big enough price for me to be having a little dabble here in this 6-runner field. Anyway,
it's a big price for a reason, Ash. It doesn't mean you have to go back in it. Yeah,
it does. It does, Harry.
Man,
no, but he should be interesting. I'd say 14-1 for Not So Sleepy's very, very good price. Josh, we'll go over to you for the Grade 1 King George. And there's a tweet from years and years and years, many moons ago, of you taking a gamble, and you said Brave Man's Game wins the 2022 King George. First of all, how happy are you to see that tweet has resurfaced and to see that it's doing wonders on the Twitter?
He put it back out.
I know he did.
I did. No, I was proud of that one. It was actually made on the 29th of December 2020.
Lovely.
And I would be disappointed if I'm not in the top 0.5% of the Brave Man's Game fan club, to be perfectly honest with you. I love that horse an awful lot, and nothing would make me happier than seeing him. But honestly, my Christmas revolves around that King George. If Christmas Day is great, but that's just a prep run for watching the racing on the TV, on the sofa, on the 26th. And if Brave Man's Game wins the King George, then Christmas made. I give me a bag of coal. Christmas will be made if Brave Man's Game wins that race.
I think it's fair to say Josh is a fan of Brave Man's Game here. Lee, what would you be taking from this race? Obviously, we've got Long Press and Brave Man's Game sort of topping the market, both at twos, the pair. Hitman's the other Paul Nicholls runner in this field. A few, can you say shrewdies on Twitter are saying go on this Hitman line, trying to find the other Paul Nicholls runner, but that's going to be ridden by Sam Twiston-Davies. But what do you make of this year's King George?
I am in the Brave Man Game camp. I thought, to be honest, I thought Le Press wouldn't go here. So I was even more. I was a bit disappointed. Come out of Newcastle race well, and obviously they're going to take the chance here. But look, everything's built up back from the Kent race last season. Obviously, Josh has been on for a while on this horse. I would maybe take a chance on Envoy to run second. Hopefully, well, not hopefully, but I think Le Press might struggle on the ground and the course. Hitman, I can't see. I think he won a bit of a egg and spoon race the last day. The likes of Manila Drama would be tailed off in this type of race. So I think he was entitled to win that race the last day. I can't see him winning. And I know Megan Nichols was on Nick Luck, I think it was, and she says the better of the two is Brave Man's Game. So that'll do for me. So look, I'm not on the big price. I think I took 5-2. 2 days later, Allaho come out. The race was even money. I thought, great, I'm onto a winner. But it's Le Press has obviously got the price back out. But Brave Man's Game for me.
Brave Man's Game for you. I'd like to take a sort of different angle on that. I think Long Press, he really showed himself as like this different animal to me last time. Like giving all that weight away, some fairly nifty horses into overdrive and some horse in behind.
Yeah, but what really, because I mean, I did watch the lads on Let's Talk Racing, and I seen Andrew mentioned about the ones in behind. He should really have beat them given that weight, shouldn't he?
Yeah, but like you got Happy Go Lucky. I always said that Happy Go Lucky was going to need to come on from a run. That was his first run, I'm fairly certain to say, and that was in third. But he's still a fairly nifty horse for Kim Bailey. I think Into Overdrive is a nice animal, and he gave weight away on his first start this season on ground that we haven't really seen him sort of properly perform to his top best on good to soft ground there. I think he's shown himself as a different animal to me. Like, I think he's that sort of like step above. I really do think he's that step above Brave Man's Game. I came out of the Charlie Hall. I thought Brave Man's Game is winning the King George. I thought there's nothing going to be touching him here. And then Long Press really sort of like took me back a little bit because I didn't think he was going to win last time. And he's gone on one fairly nicely there. I think if I was taking the top two, I'd probably take Long Press. And in my notes here, I started to write about Envoy Allen. I tried to make a case for him. I thought he won really well last time, but his jumping really put me off. Like, we've got two brilliant jumpers here in Brave Man's Game, Long Press. I think they completely jump all over Envoy Allen. I think Envoy Allen's a really nice horse, and I think if you're probably going to go for a value play in this, I would agree Envoy Allen, 8-1, you'd be fine with that. But I think round Kempton, I think Long Press and Brave Man's Game were just out jumping. He'll start sort of niggling along like 3 or 4 out, something like that. I'm not too sure. We'll see on that. Long Press for me would be the one.
I think so. Just to butt in, I wouldn't suggest the Brave Man's Game's a better horse than the Long Press. I just think the conditions will suit him,
yes,
and this has been the race. Like if there's a Gold Cup or anything, I suppose if it was 3 miles around most other courses, I'd probably pick the Long Press. I think he's probably a better stayer. I think Paul Nicholls would probably admit that, and it'd be interesting to see what Charlie Deutsch does. But with regards to the target trainer, on one day, he's won the Corto Star. He literally mentioned this race the moment he won the Corto Star. Yeah. It's been his only plan. He doesn't care about the Gold Cup. I know he's talked about the Gold Cup, Nicholls, about Brave Man's Game, and he'll probably go there after if he wins. But he won't care if Brave Man's Game's tailed off in the Gold Cup, but he wins this. And this will just be his day. And I look at Hitman and I think second string. I think if you ask Paul Nicholls or anyone at the yard, really, who do you think would win out of those two? I think majority of them would say Brave Man's Game. And then you look at them. Frodon can't win the King George again. No. Envoy Allen, I would be worried about him. I also wouldn't rule out, if he runs, Eldorado Allen. My three genuinely would be Brave Man's Game 1, Eldorado Allen 2. I think he'd be ridden to finish second or finish well. And I'd probably just about say Envoy Allen third. But
There's a tri-cast for you. There you go.
But I thought as I made a big statement a long time ago, I thought I'd make one now, and I just wouldn't rule out Eldorado Allen because he's going to be ridden to finish well and to pick up the pieces.
Who do you think will lead? Because obviously, like Ash said, the two Lahon Press and Brave Man's Game are cracking jumpers. They've both been from the front before. They've mixed it in. Who do you think will?
I would be very surprised if Bryony isn't trying to make all on Frodon, as he won the race a couple of years ago. It's the only way you can ride him. I think when Frodon's past, it tends to mean bad things for him. He doesn't tend to win. I would imagine you can ride Brave Man's Game however you want. I think Lahon Press is pretty tactically versatile as well. I'd imagine he'd be a bit handier than Brave Man's Game. Look, Harry Cobden.
They'll be all pushing it.
Yeah, he's going to ride the same race as he did last year with a Hoist in Yor. He will go up alongside, jumping 3 out, 2 out, and if he's a better horse than Lahon Press, he'll go past. If he's not, he won't.
That's fair. That's a fair shout. Harry, we've spent plenty of time on this, King George. What do you make of this year's renewal before we move on to the Irish stuff?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Josh has said. I think the only thing I'd say is how long can Brave Man's Game go before taking on Press off the bridle? I think he needs to go past him. I think his speed. I think he's a speedier horse than.
He travels really nicely into his races, doesn't he? He always travels nicely.
But I think the question lies with how much does he find off the bridle? Because when he's won, he's kind of won impressively. He hasn't been needed to go, I don't know, a whole furlong off the bridle. In the Charlie Hall, I think he had a couple of flicks and that was it. But that was just putting the race to bed. And people say he got tired towards the line. I wasn't a fan of that. I thought he was just pricking his ears in front and he won as he liked in the end.
Has he always not just done that as well? Like he's never looked a thorough stayer. He always slows. Yeah.
I think what he does it so impressively. He kind of races until he's to the front, and usually that's just enough. And then he's just won. He's won by then, and that's why he wins so impressively. There is one that I do like at a massive price, Ash, and this horse clocked a really nice RPR last time he went to Kempton. It is Royal Pagaille for Venetia Williams. Now, listen, I'm not saying this horse is going to go and win. However, he did win a nice handicap off this. I think it was at this meeting. It was the I think it was either today the 27th.
He won the Peter Marsh at Haydock in January. So that was
that was a race after. That was a race. Okay. That was the race after.
Yeah.
So he won this off 140, and then he went up £16 to 156, and then won that by 16 lengths. Now he travelled so strongly through that December race, and I watched it back today while I was on my work break, and I was like, tell you what, if they go a mad clip in front, because as the lads have mentioned, Frodon's going to go off in front. There's going to be plenty of pace on this. It could be a pace collapse, and it could suit one of the closers. Now, if Royal Pagaille gets his ground, if it turns soft, we mentioned it could go really soft. Now, I think he's got a massive chance. He's been off a while, but he's won off a break before, so that wouldn't put me off. And listen, he's clocked RPRs close to what the two in front have, so I think he could be a live player at 20-1. But I think Brave Man's Game for me personally, I'd love to see him win because I just love the way he jumps. You watch him as a novice chaser; he's the best novice chaser I've seen jump for a while now. I think he's a quicker horse than Lahon Press, but if it turns into a test of staying, I think Lahon Press will beat him.
No, he's a very nifty horse, definitely. We'll move on to the Grade 1 Racing Post Novice Chase over at Leopardstown, the 220 on Boxing Day. And Fildor tops the market, Lee. We've got this Gordon Elliott horse in here. We've got Gordon Elliott second string, well, Parrot second string in Hollow Games there at 3-1. Is this Fildor's race? And is this really, truly Fildor's trip of 2 Mile 1?
That's not the question I thought you were going to ask. No, to be honest, I'm unsure going forward. What I like in the angle that he's had a couple of runs. Obviously, he's had the chasing experience. I do like Hollow Games. Gordon obviously thinks that this trip is maybe suit the horse better this season. Maybe he's run over the wrong trip last season. There's quite a few of Willie Mullins. Flame Bearer come out today. El Fabiolo is due to run tomorrow. So then it's like, how do you mix his pack up? And I think Dysart Dynamo, is that the only one of his to go in this race?
No, St. Roy's always in it.
Obviously, he was beat the last day by Fildor. Look, I just like the fact that Fildor's had a couple of runs and I can't really get by that horse. although I do like hollow games. But yeah, Fildor is probably the obvious one, but I think he'll just win with experience.
It's Fildor at evens, Josh. It's hollow games at 3s, Samwar at 5s, Darkside Dynamo at 8s. Can you see anything past Fildor at the top of the market?
It's a horrible race to look at because obviously Fildor gets the weight allowances, and that could be key. I think he gets £6 from the majority of them, if not all of them, because he's a 4-year-old. I'm not convinced he's a 2-miler. I think he's probably a 3-miler in time. That being said, with the weight allowances, should he go and win? Probably. It's interesting that they've kept Dynamo in the race. If he runs, it's obviously a big task. First time up in a Grade 1. I doubt that he will run. But in my opinion, I'd write off Punchestown. I'd write off Cheltenham. And I think he's the best hurdler out of these. 8-1 might be value if he runs. And if he does run, I think it's a big saying a big statement that Willie definitely trusts his jumping. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a horrible race. I probably wouldn't have a bet. I don't think Hollow Games is a 2-miler. I don't think Saint-Roi is a particularly strong horse. I'm not sure he's going to be great over a fence. Fildor beat him last time. Is there any reason why that should be turned around?
No.
Probably not. So, I don't know. It's a very tricky one.
The one thing I'd say is the King George is probably the top race I have like the least amount of opinion on because it's such a tough race, and this comes in at a close second. It's a very tough one to work out, Harry. But what would you make of this race? We've had two sort of middling opinions there, but it seems like Fildor is the one that's coming out on top. Would you like to be taking on Fildor currently?
I would if Darkside Dynamo definitely goes, because as Josh mentioned, it would be a big statement by Willie saying, right, we're going to pitch him into a Grade 1. We trust his jumping. Excuse me. And now I really like this horse. Now, get rid of his Punchestown run. He was running, him and John Bond went head to toe. They killed each other off in the Supreme, set it up for Constitution Hill. I'll stand by that sword and die by it. It was the biggest pace collapse going. But I think he's a seriously talented horse. And if he takes the chasing, and if he's as quick as he was over hurdles, he is over fences, he'll be a tough one to catch because he's proved it at Punchestown, Cork. When he won his hurdle races, he won by 19 lengths twice. They just couldn't live with him. Horses can't live with him because he's so quick and he's just got that engine. 2 miles, it suits him down to the ground because he can go as fast as he wants for 2 miles, and then who knows, he might go an extra furlong, 2 furlongs. Might blow up. He might just not win that trip. I think he's a serious talent over fences if he takes to it. And 8-1 could prove big because I think he is a top class horse and he could be a top class chaser.
He's probably likely to run in the beginner's chase, I'd say.
Yeah, it's the day after, is it? Or on next Tuesday, I think.
Yeah. But he's kept him in potentially for a reason.
But I checked the entries. Sorry, Lee. I checked the entries for the beginner's chase, and obviously Journey with Me's in there. That horse came out, beat Flame Bearer today. There's quite a few in there. If you want the easy option, you go and win the beginner's chase. If you want the statement option to say, right, I'm here, Mr. Mullins is here, I've got the big boys here, I'm prepared to send him on his chasing debut into a Grade 1, then take this option.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, originally it was Appreciated Sir Gerhard, El Fabliolo, Flame Bearer and Dysart were all entered into this race at first. So if he's going to choose that one, but it's like the all are coming out at the same time. What do you do with them? Do you take the chance and roll the dice? Like Josh says, I think maybe go the easier option and build up to the festivals, isn't it? Is best.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in a bit of predicament here because I said in our Horses to Follow video that I thought Fildor wins any race that he goes in before the new year because of what Josh mentioned there, the weight allowance he gets as a 4-year-old. The issue is I kind of had this in my mind that they go 2 miles at Down Royal as a beginner's chase, and then they go on to 2.5 at Christmas time, and they've kept this horse, or it seemingly looks like they're keeping this horse to this race to go over 2 mile 1, and I am convinced, I'm absolutely convinced that he's a 2.5 miler. I'm absolutely convinced. I'm convinced they're going for this because they've got Mighty Potter for the Turners. Like, I think connections are like, right, okay, let's have an Arkle horse. Let's try and see if this horse can go to the Arkle, because this horse at Cheltenham, he was staying on the line, and I'm pretty sure if David Russell had kicked off the bend there a bit earlier, he would have given Vauban a better race. Dublin Racing Festival is always staying on. Same goes for the Punchestown Festival, and even his second to Brazil over hurdles at the start of this season. Like, he absolutely clattered one of the hurdles, and then he still stayed on at the finish. Like, I seriously believe this guy's crying out for 2.5 miles, which would like me to sort of try and take him on. And I am going to try and take him on with the sort of apparent second string here in the market, Hollow Games. I take in Josh's point that as a hurdler, he's a 2.5 miler. They even tried 3 miles with him. But over the fences, what's key for him is that he can take his fences at this 2 mile pace. He doesn't have to step into them, take a step, and then go for it. He in his beginner's chase, he was taking them at that speed. His finishing speed was 44.5 seconds from 3 out to the line. That was a second quicker than what Captain Giddis did in the Grade 2 Fortria Stakes. What pronunciations galore.
That is about the 6th week in a row you have mullered a pronunciation.
It's not top of my game there. We'll stick to the pick of the horses. You know,
what is
picking the horses? You know how it goes. And picking Tony Carroll horses, Wolverhampton. No, I think that the finishing speed last time in his beginner's chase compared to the other races on the card was really good, and that was either over a further distance in the 2 mile chase. So I think the Hollow Games could be a really nice horse over this sort of minimum distance, or even 2.5 miles. But in this lineup, I'd probably be taking Hollow Games at 3-1 rather than Phil Dorr.
Can I butt in very quickly?
Go on.
I think there could be a small betting angle in the race. I would imagine Midnight Run will run for Joseph. He's 33s. Mighty Potter won't run. 3 Stripe Life won't run. Dysart Dynamo probably unlikely to run. There's currently 3 places on offer anti-post. I'd say the Joseph horse will run. Maybe Normie doesn't run his. So you could get 3 places, 33-1, and all he's got to do is beat one of the top 3.
Can I let you to a little secret, Josh?
You've already put it up, haven't you?
No, I believe that I've been told that Midnight Run goes to Limerick instead for the 2.5 miler. So I don't want to burst your bubble there. I don't want to, because I really like this horse. I'm going to talk about him when we go into the Faugheen, but I really like the horse. But I dropped a message over, and apparently he's going to Limerick for the 2.5 miler. So
fair enough. I just thought if he was to run, he might be a bit of a squeak anti-post.
No, definitely.
Also, can you stop sending me losers at Wolverhampton trained by Tony Carroll?
I actually only sort of mentioned one horse. I didn't actually mention it to you lads when Tony Carroll had a 40-1 winner, and we were sat for lunch. I was like, oh, by the way, Tony had a winner yesterday, and both him and Andrew went, "Why didn't you tell us?" And then the rest of the horse, I tell them just lose. So that's my little game I like to play with them boys. But the Faugheen is the final race we're going to be sort of taking a real in-depth look at, and it is the race that we were talking about there over at Limerick. My price got off the screen, but it's the race that Midnight Run's going to go for. And Lee, you have a strong fancy at the top of the market. It's Jerry Colomb, if I'm correct in saying.
I love this horse, Jerry Colomb. I think the race is absolutely teed up for him. If you had to pick a race for a horse at the start of the season, I think this race will suit him down to ground. Tailor-made. He likes conditions. It's going to be soft to heavy. It kind of is always around this time of year in Limerick. And beat some good horses the last day. Beat Bron, who was a Grade 2 winner last season. Chantruse was in there. Sam's Profile, who's a Galmoy winner. It was a good start over fences, and I just think the race is tailor-made for him. Look, I did read about Gordon's. The name escapes us. The second horse of his, Mighty Potter. He says if he doesn't go to this race, he won't go anywhere over Christmas, Mighty Potter. So just want to look out for. But he is considering the horse for the race as well. But I think he'll just take the chance with Jerry Colomb because the race honestly will suit him down to the ground. Mm-hmm. These fences will be tailor-made for him as well. I did put him up last week at 6-4, I think. Yes. I know it's not much value, but he is being backed in, and I think he'll go shorter because the race often cuts up. So, Jerry Colomb just wins.
No, definitely. I agree with that. If Mighty Potter turns up, I think he's probably most likely a winner. But I'd say maybe go to a race at Punchestown in January. If not, he might go to the Dublin Racing Festival. But we'll see with that. Josh, you're shaking your head there about Mighty Potter. What do you make of it?
He's just not going to run, is he?
won't.
No.
He's not going to run.
They'll
If
not
Gordon's
go
got,
against this lad, because this lad, I honestly, I can't. This is definitely my nap of Christmas. I know it's went short now, but I literally would have picked this race at the start of the season for the horse.
I agree. I like Jerry Cheltenham a lot. I think if Gelard de Menil runs, maybe he might run in the 3 mile race at Leopardstown. I think he'd be of interest, but it's not a fancy price. But you couldn't really find a race more tailor made to Jerry Cheltenham.
Is it Jerry Cheltenham that you're just full on? There's nothing at a bigger price you like?
I think he's a better horse than Kilcrut. Kilcrut was very good on his chasing debut, but I think this might be a step too far. Mighty Potter won't run. 3 Stripe Life won't run. Gelard de Menil, like I said, if he runs, he'd be of interest. But I think he'll go to Leopardstown for the 3 mile race. I don't think Midnight Run. I think he's got a better chance of winning the 2 mile race. I think the 2 mile race at Leopardstown would be a lot similar to his last win, rather than this is a bog. This is going to be 2.5 miles at Limerick, but it will feel like 4. So you need a thorough stay. Exactly. So, like currently the ground's soft. I'd say it'll probably get a bit softer, and Jerry Cheltenham loves that stuff. So yeah, it'd be him.
If Midnight Run goes to this race, I would still like him. Like you said, it was going to be sort of a bit more of a stayer. It's going to be wanting this type, the softer ground, the 2 mile free. But it seems like he's going to go here. He's drifting in the markets. So maybe he might have a last minute decision. But yeah, I've mentioned in the past about Midnight Run. I think his form stacks up really nice at these big prices. 50-1 looks big to me. But Harry, is it Jerry Cheltenham for you? Is it Jerry Cheltenham we move on?
Yeah, I can't really see anything that beats him. As you have all mentioned, there's horses in there that just won't be going. I think Jerry Cheltenham is a better horse than Kilcrut, especially over fences. And what can you take him on? Because, I mean, Gordon's got about half the field in this. Half the field won't go. And, the one horse that will go will be silly odds on the day. It'll be about 1 to 2 if the race cuts up. So I think 8 to 11 there. If you're a fan of odds on backing, then I mean, it'd probably be shorter on the day. So I think it's teed up for the horse, isn't it, really? I mean, he's just proven himself over fences as well recently. So I think this is just an obvious stepping stone.
Yeah, it'll definitely be tough to beat. And we're coming to the end of our time with Josh, thank God. But if we can get a few more fancies for you throughout Christmas, I know you want to potentially talk about the Corto Star. You think you might know the winner for that. But if you have any other fancies for the rest of the Christmas time, the floor is yours.
What do you think of the Corto Star?
I think McFabulous probably wins.
Is that the kind of a similar opinion across the board?
Do you know, Harry?
I don't know, because I do like Gelino Bello. I do like Gelino Bello as a horse, but I think McFabulous round Kempton 3 miles. I was worried about him staying last time, and he just basically ate me up, threw me out, and said, "Well, I'm a better horse over fences, you idiot." So I think McFabulous is there it's just there to win, isn't it? Really?
Lee, what do you make of him?
It's a horse that I never catch right, so I'm obviously a bit lukewarm on him. I do like Gelino Bello, and if they both go, I'd probably take Gelino Bello over him.
We'll go to you then, Josh. Is it McFabulous or is it Gelino Bello?
I don't honestly have a bet in that race.
I think
why are you here?
I think Gelino Bello's a better horse. I think McFabulous probably better suited to that test. But I do have 2 for you. Over Christmas. Fantastic. And they're both in lower grade handicap hurdles, both on Boxing Day. One is Clapton Hill, who's trained by Ben Pauling. He's entered in the 1 o'clock at Wetherby and the 1:47 at Huntingdon. He's been given an opening mark of 104. I'd say he's been given 3 relatively quiet runs. The first run, he finished 10 lengths behind strong leader. I think Ollie Murphy's got a good horse with him. And the second time he went close. The last run, I think, was a quiet run. I think they wanted to get him a nice low handicap mark. He's come up 104. I think he's better than that. He'll have multiple engagements over Christmas. But I think if it goes to one of these, he'll win. And then the other one is an Alistair Ralph mare, 5-year-old mare called Tinton Abbey. I can't quite believe her handicap mark. She came over from Aidan Fitzgerald in December 2021. She won a bumper, and then she finished 22 lengths behind Mullenbeg in the listed bumper at Cheltenham on Trials Day, the rearranged one. And just the fact that she ran in that race, I think, was interesting. She then finished 6 lengths behind Poetic Music at Ludlow on a hurdling debut. I think that's pretty good form. And she was beaten again at Wincanton, but I think she ran well. and she's been given a mark of 99. She's in at Market Raisin, the 105 there, and she's also in at Huntingdon, the 147. So I hope she doesn't clash with Clapton Hill. Hope she goes to Market Raisin, and if she does, she's much better than 99. She'll be winning.
Look at that there. 2 handicap fancies from Josh. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on, Josh. I do have a fancy for myself that I'm going to put up. Bow to Greatness in the 305 at Kempton, the 2 mile 4 limited handicap chase for Ben Pauling. Thought his run last time out was really, really smart. Exeter was second. Short head to Black Jerry. I think he's a really nice type. He won at Leicester over hurdles last season, and Ben thinks a lot of this horse. He was going to go to the Albert Bartlett, but he skipped that and went to Aintree instead, straight into the Grade 1 that Jelena Bella won. So they think a lot of this horse. He's much improved for fences off a mark of 135. Bow to Greatness at 14-1 will be all for me. But thank you for coming on, Josh. Do you want to leave a bit of
No, I was just going to mention, just while we're talking about the Boxing Day stuff, High Definition is went from Aiden's to Joseph's and is due out on Boxing Day going hurdling. So
needs
time
5 miles.
Derby
Needs 5 miles. Move on.
Yeah, but no, it's just an interesting one to watch. I'm not napping the horse. I'm just saying one time Derby favourite there, going hurdling with Joseph. So that's for a Boxing Day one to watch.
No, definitely be interested to see how he goes. Josh, thank you very much for making your debut on the YouTube channel. Very much appreciate you coming on, even though you gave Harry Moustache a little bit of jib. So, but
I want to say thank you, Josh, for actually helping me out and giving Ash some back, because it's every week that I get all the slack. So thank you for giving it back anytime.
Why you take it? Why do you take it off
no,
him?
it doesn't, because right, I'll let you into a secret here. We're basically planning a trip to Dublin. We will be going over to Dublin once more, as we did last year, and my plan is to get him absolutely battered. So then the Twitter videos he puts of me, it will. The Twitter videos he gets of me, they will be flying out.
That's what video I've got of you with the cricket. That's fantastic. No, but Josh, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the Only Fools Love Horses debut.
So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's interesting you mentioned High Definition. Sorry to go back to it. Willie's going to be sending some seriously smart novices to those first 2 races at Leopardstown. I'd be backing the first string in both of them of Willie's. He took Stateman there last time he fell. I think he's got a few in there that are really interesting and have lofty reputations. Alastor as well. I think he wears the Hurricane Fly colours. He's entered in the first one. Well, obviously, Willie's got 25 entered in both maiden hurdles. So I just don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for High Definition. Obviously, if he can transfer his flat form over here, he will take a lot of beating. But the Donnellys have got Parmenion. I don't know, 4-year-old.
Pronunciations. I'm not the only one.
I've butchered that. I know I've butchered that. But obviously, it's nothing new. Willie loves to send a good one there. And he had a nice winner today as well, the French manure horse. So he might have 1 or 2 better that he sends there.
No, definitely. No, thank you very much, Josh, for coming on. If you don't somehow know who this guy is, follow him on Twitter and do go check out Let's Talk Racing. They do some fantastic content there. And we'll be moving on now to the lads to talk about the racing on the 27th. So thank you very much, Josh, and we'll move on. Thank you very much, Josh, for your selections and your constant support on the Only Fools Love Horses channel. Thank you very much for always coming on. We're moving on now to the races on the 27th. We've got a couple of handicaps to cover and a few graded races to cover. And we've got a full cast to do it. We've got Alex from Cheltenham Exchange, we've got Racing Gav, and we've got Pete, Risk for Awards. I'll go over to Alex. You're making your debut on the channel, or debut on the Only Fools Love Horses content. Thank you very much for coming on. And how are you?
Yeah, very well. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to getting stuck into this festive racing. Quite a lot on, isn't there?
There is a lot, yeah. And as you can see, you've got a Christmas jumper on, as have the other guests, and I've got the elves hat on. Where's the Christmas spirit from the other 2 lads? Where are we, lads?
I've got Desi. That's my Christmas theme. Desi in the background here.
No, I can't find anything to be fair. I've been at work since 10 o'clock, so that's my excuse.
No excuse at all. Gav, you're coming back on to this. Is your first time, might be on the channel as well, and it's great to see you. And we've got some great racing to cover on the Christmas episode.
Yeah, we certainly have. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. So I did the Twitter live last weekend, and this is the first kind of proper appearance as such. But yeah, looking forward to some of the Christmas races.
Yeah, it should be fantastic. And Pete, you're an old reliable of ours. We always call on you and we need you for the Twitter lives. And you're making your debut on the channel. It's great to see you. And we've got some Christmas racing to cover and hopefully some nice fancies.
Yeah, I hope so. It's been a bit of a slow start to the season, so I'm expecting it to go bang 26th onwards. Just continuous drinking and betting.
Fingers crossed. We've got the Grade 1 Faugheen. No, we haven't. Grade 1 Paddy's Reward Club Chase on the 27th to cover. And we've got some nice horses enter for this race. It's off my screen currently, so I'm gonna drop one of the guests in it now. I'm gonna drop Alex in first. If you can just talk through who you might fancy for the Paddy's Reward Club Chase, and I'll get some prices up on my screen.
I mean, looking at the race, I mean, I cannot back Chacun Pour Soi. I just can't have him. Not really a particular fan of Blue Lord either. One of those horses where whenever I back him, he always loses, and whenever I don't back him, he wins. So I'm going to put something else up. So make sure you guys back it because it'll probably win. The one I'm going to side with, can't believe I'm going to say it, is Course Sublime. Current best price 18-1, which I think is a good each way price. I think he's better than the form that he's shown so far. I mean, his run in the Arca was really poor, but I mean, other than that, I think he has been okay. First 2 novice races, he bumped into Fernie Hollow. I mean, one of those things. I mean, Fernie Hollow, I think if he'd stayed fit, then I think he'd have been the Arca winner last year, and I'd probably be looking to back him this year for the Champion Chase. But it's just one of those things, isn't it? You just can't stay fit. I think he'd have won that race it was Nace, wasn't it, last month when he was going best that day when he fell. I think he's a great bet, and I mean the fact that he finished, I think it was ahead behind Blue Lord at Punchestown in April, and now the big difference in the price, I just can't see why it is. And 18-1 each way, I think that's a really solid bet.
Yeah, no, thank you for your selection there. We must be singing off the same hymn sheet because I really like this horse. Just to give a few prices at this early stage, Chacun Pour Soi 5-4. There's no Energumen. He's going to go to a different race later on in the season. Blue Lord 9-4. Captain Guinness in there at 6s. Gentleman to Me 10s. And I really like the Course Sublime shout as well. Like, I was a big fan of him for the Arkle. I thought he was a little bit of an underdog and he just didn't perform. But you look at it beforehand, he was beaten ahead by Blue Lord, as you said. Before that, before Cheltenham, he bolstered up at Gowran Park. Before that, he was second to Fernie Hollow on his chase debut, and he gave Fernie Hollow a really, really good race. And he probably should have won last time out against Jeremy's Flame, where he fell at the last. I think the key to him is soft ground, and we should be getting these softer conditions at these Christmas races this year. And fingers crossed, Course Sublime, I completely agree with you here. He'd be my fancy for the race, 18-1. I can completely see it. Gav, we've opened it up. All 6 of us here, and already 2 of us agree on the same horse. Please make it 3 from 3, and we can just forget about the rest of them here.
I'd love to, but sadly, I can't help you out with that one. So, I was looking at the race, and I don't know. For me, it's hard to see past Chacun Pour Soi, but it's a no better. Yeah, some of them are sort of 4-5 or around that sort of even money price. And there's just that concern that he's not quite the same horse as he once was. He's turned sort of 11 at the end of this month. Blue Lord at 9-4 just looks poor value to me. He couldn't even win the Arkle. So for him to come out and win this race, I can't see it at 9-4. And I was trying to look through the rest of them, and the value bet for me, if he was to run, would probably be Gentleman to Me at 10-1. I think double figure price at 10-1 looks pretty generous. And away from Chacun Pour Soi, Gentleman to Me's win at Aintree with the RPR for sort of 167. It's probably the best form on offer here, to be fair, outside of Chacun Pour Soi, the favourite. The concern is that form. He's obviously beat Edwardstone after he's already won at Cheltenham. Is that form flattering him? Potentially it is. If you do that, I'm struggling to find a bet in the race, to be honest. And it's slightly tempers the enthusiasm that he was sort of tired and beaten when he unseated on his reappearance, but you could potentially kind of forgive that as it's his first run out. But the 4th in the Tingle Creek wasn't that inspiring, to be honest. But if he could bounce back to that Aintree run, then I think he'd be the one to be on it at sort of 10-1 price.
No, definitely, he's got a chance. And while I'm with you, Gav, you sort of said you think Chacun Pour Soi is probably the most likely winner here. I know you've got a big price fancy for the Queen Mother in Nube Negra now, but this horse is priced up at 33-1 for the Queen Mother. Would you see? I know we've had this sort of travelling issue with him. He hasn't really performed when he's come over to the UK. Do you think this year could be his time to finally make a play in the Queen Mother, or do you think that boat's already sailed?
Yeah, for me, I'd say that boat sailed. And I know Willie kind of spoke at the start of the season that he might play around with his trip. So I think if we were going to see him at Cheltenham, he may well be in the Ryanair, particularly with the Allaho doubts. I personally was saying that Gallopin the Champ could go to the Ryanair as kind of an outsider if he, for some reason, didn't stay. Allaho dropped out. But Chacun Pour Soi is in that picture as well. But yeah, I just think if he couldn't win that Champion Chase where it was put the kettle on one, Nuba Negra was there. He's not going to go and beat Energumene. So yeah, for me, that boat sailed.
That's fair enough. Pete. We've got 2 selections from the lads there. Chacun Pour Soi, probably the most likely winner, but a couple for Gentleman de Me there and a couple for the bigger one in Course Sublime. What do you make of this race without Energumene obviously showing up?
I thought this was pretty simple. It was just a point and shoot for Chacun Pour Soi. He's either good enough or he's not, because you look at his form and you put it really simple. Like, a lot of these aren't big world beaters or anything, and he's got 6 Group 1s to his name. He's ran 10 times in Ireland. He's only lost twice, of which that was to Energumene and to Aplutard. He ran to a fair level. He ran to 176 and 167 last season. He's won this race before. Like, I think if he's in his own backyard, and he's 4 for 5 at Leopardstown, I think if he's in his own backyard, I think he's always going to be the one to beat, unless he's got something like a top notcher. So as much as a price like 5 to 4 evens isn't great, I'd either rather just back him and be with him, or just watch the race. Like, I found you go through the rest, and I'm a big fan of Gentleman de Me, but it's twice he's like, I listened to Ruby Walsh and he said, yeah, it took him 2 runs to get him going last year. And maybe that'll be the case. He'll get better as the season goes on and maybe be a Cheltenham entry horse. But I couldn't back him off what he's shown so far. I just don't. And the same with, to be fair, the same with most of them. I think it's just him or the rest. Blue Lord, I don't mind him as a horse, but I'd see him more of a Ryanair horse, as in trip-wise. I don't know if he'll make it to that level. But yeah, he wouldn't be for me. And I just think he'd be lucky to follow Chacun Pour Soi home. So unless he bombs out, I find him hard to beat.
On official ratings, they've got to find like nearly a stone here, most of them, Pete. It looks quite simple for Chacun Pour Soi.
Yeah. And that's the way I see it. If he travels anywhere else, then you take him on. But in his own playground, and you see the way Willie still talks about him. Sometimes he still talks as if he's a little bit shocked that he's like getting beat by Energumene. You think he puts him on that same pedestal. But he just, for whatever reason, he does not travel.
No, definitely. Yeah. Harry, is it Chacun Pour Soi and we move on here?
No, I'm disappointed, Ash, because you actually know there is one horse in this field.
Unfortunately, I do.
Yes, you do. And I was so confident on this horse's chances in this year's Tingle Creek, and then he was a late withdrawal. Now, judging by the Guinness. Now, whether he'd have beaten Edwardstone, who knows? But listen, I am going to put him up again. He's around 6 to 1, I believe, 6 to 1, 5 to 1, around that mark. And listen, for those reasons I mentioned for the Tingle Creek, I completely stand by them, and this is why I'm putting it up again. I think he's a more mature horse than he was this time last year. He proved that on his reappearance run. Now, he has got chasing experience on his side, as does Chacun Pour Soi. And listen, he hasn't ran any real bad runs in defeat, barring the times that he stepped up in trip. Now, he does have a tendency to travel really, really strongly, maybe too strongly, but he did it last time, and he kind of seemed to relish it, and he kind of bolted in, I thought, really. Riviera Tell, obviously, was in second that day. She let the form down last time out, but take nothing away from the winner there, because the horse can only beat what's in front of him, and listen, he's only a 7-year-old now, I think, and he's sure to be better with age, and I think he's a different monster than he was last year, and I think he could take, if Chacun Pour Soi, as the lads have already mentioned, if he does underperform, I think this is Captain Guinness's to lose. Henry's is starting to hit form now. We've seen that in the last couple of days. Now, I think Captain Guinness is a really big price in this, and he is one of the strongest selections over the Christmas period for me.
Oof, that is bold. And Harry's putting up Captain Guinness for the 14th time this season. Lee, yourself, Captain Guinness from Harry there, Course Sublime for myself, a few other shouts from the lads. Who are you siding with? You've got the final guess now. Who will you be siding with?
Look, I agree with kind of everything that everybody said. I'm the same with Alex. I can't get Blue Lord on side. I haven't warmed to him. Has the ship sailed for Chacun in regard to Cheltenham? Definitely. I think the ship is sunk. He had his chance and he blew it. But the same with Pete. You know, this is the time to catch him. He loves the course. He loves the race, basically. So point and shoot, definitely for him. I did think the overpriced one was Course Sublime, because I think he should have won the last day. And through a line, through Gentleman to Me, obviously he beat Edwardstone, Arkle winner, Tingle Creek winner. I know Edwardstone was on the back of a long season then, but still, look, he's definitely overpriced, Course Sublime. Look, for me, Captain Guinness is a Mr. Fisher. I've said it before.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something nice then, Lee.
Look, he's a grade 2 horse, and at best, like, I don't see him winning this. I think Course Sublime's overpriced, but I do see Shacken winning. So yeah, Shacken for me.
We've had a few shouts there. Fingers crossed we found the winner. We'll move on. That was the 110 at Leopardstown on the 27th. The 145 is the future champion novice hurdle. And we've got Mr. Tattoo, Facile Vega, 1 to 4. That's your kind of price, isn't it, Harry?
Oh, 1 to 5 usually mine, so I think there's a little bit of value left in that.
No, but we've got Facile Vega. We've got 9 in the race, so 8 are going to be taking him on. Irish Point 5 to 1. Outtake Tomps in there at 13 to 2. A few others at bigger price. So I'll go back to Pete. Is as simple as short conversation? Is it Facile Vega and we move on?
Well, last night there was 40 horses in this race with no decks, and I wrote a list of 7. He is the only one that has survived. So,
well done.
Yeah,
good pick. That good pick.
Yeah. To be honest, like I didn't think he was great on debut, but I'm just going off everything that he had from last year. I'm not going to row in and say you want to be backing him at 1 to 4 or whatever. I thought Irish Point was reasonable last time. That was a good run by Marine National.
He'll probably go to the Laurels of Nace when he Pete.
Well, this is the point, and the problem is I looked last night and it had 40 runners in, and I looked at last year's renewal and it had 5 runners, and Willie didn't even send one of his best. So if Facile Vega's in the race, I won't be looking to take him on regardless. So yeah, it's a point and shoot.
Point and shoot, Facile Vega. Are you agreeing here, Gav?
Yeah, you have to think that Facile Vega is going to win it, but yeah, as Pete said, you can't be backing him at 1 to 4, 1 to 5. There was a couple in here, and again, it depends on what runs, but Astro Diamond jumped out to me with the current runners and the current price at sort of 10 to 1. So she ran a solid race last time to finish third behind sort of Marine National and Irish Point. To be fair to her, she was slightly inconvenienced at the last and stayed on well. And on that run, I wouldn't say there was a great deal between Irish Point and Astro Diamond on that form. And I just wouldn't have Astro Diamond 10 to 1, whereas Irish Point's 5 to 1. I think double the price is slightly insulting to the mare, especially if she gets that kind of mare's allowance again. And the other one I did think was slightly interesting was Outtake Tomp, if he was to turn up. He was sort of 13 to 2. I know you have to kind of take the juvenile form with a pinch of salt, but he ran to sort of a 140 RPR at the sort of Dublin Race Festival last year over this sort of course and distance. Too keen at Cheltenham and still finished kind of 5th. And it's difficult to put a handle on that maiden hurdle win because it was just so easy. But my kind of angle on that one was that it's the 5th run over hurdles, and is that experience going to kind of bode well for him? Whereas, say, Facile Vega is that one run, there was no kind of competition. It wasn't kind of a race. The problem with that race is none of them wanted to finish up his ass because they're going to get hammered, whereas they're probably handicappers. So yeah, it's one of those that for me, you've got the experience angle with Outtake Tomp, and then you've got the kind of mare's angle with Astro Diamond. And yeah, 13 to 2 or 10 to 1. If I had to have a bet, I'd be leaning towards those. But yeah, it's hard to oppose Facile Vega in this.
Yeah, outside of Facile Vega, Astro Diamond's one of 3 horses who are actually only entered for this race. The rest of them are entered for the Laws of Nace. I think that's the issue with this, Alex. You don't know who's going to turn up. You can only assume those 4 turn up, and you're going to be taking a guess at the others. But it looks like, as we've all sort of succumbed to here, it's a point and shoot here for Facile Vega.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see him losing this. Just like Gav said, I think the only other one that I'd be interested in would be Astro Diamond, and that would be, I mean, I'd probably look at if there's a betting without the favourite market. I think she'd be quite a good bet, especially with that mare's allowance. And yeah, I mean, she was inconvenienced, wasn't she, at the end of that last race? So let's not try and find value where there isn't any. I think, although he's 1 to 4, I think he's going to win.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I give one, before I go over to you, Lee, I say Intranet, I think, has got a chance, not maybe of winning, but if there is a sort of without favourites market, I'd be interested in Intranet. A bumper winner in France and privately bought by Willie Mullins. Beat Belle the Lioness last time out. Looked to be a little bit of trouble, but stayed on nicely. Travelled with some good speed and won by 2 lengths. Belle the Lioness was a good second to Liberty Dance the other day, where final ride for Davy Russell. I think that horse should have been closer, if not clattering the final 2 hurdles. So if there's without the favourite, maybe Intranet might be interesting, but it's quite simple here. Facile Vega, Lee, and we move on to a couple more races.
Yeah, maybe I'll put it a different question to the lads. Maybe just yes or no. Does Facile win the Supreme?
We'll go to Alex first. Put him on the spot.
I'm going to say no, not because I don't think he's going to win, but I've got this sneaky suspicion that at the last minute, Willie's going to put him in the Ballymore. I don't know why.
I agree.
It's just
I
Mullins'
agree.
finger, isn't
Exact
it? You never
same.
know. And I mean, everybody up till a few weeks before said last year that Sir Gerhard was going to be the supreme horse. Then obviously he reroutes. It would just be typical Mullins, wouldn't it? Like last minute changing him to the Ballymore.
It would be. Gav, yourself?
Yeah, I'm slightly on the same page there. It's one of those. I think if he turns up, he probably is the most likely winner, and he just looks a freak, doesn't he?
He does. I assume, Pete, you think he might go to the Ballymore?
Yeah, I've just got this feeling that at some point this season, unless the ground starts getting heavy, like there's going to be a point where he's still going to win, but he's going to make harder work of it, and you're going to get like a couple of like Dysart Dynamos that are just quick horses, and Willie's like, well, I can't send them to the 2 mile 4, and then we get a repeat. I think the way he sees it at the moment is similar to Sir Gerhard last year, that he thinks he could probably do either, and it's just which shall I put him in? And you look at the Cuvega lines and all of that. Everything's screaming out stamina. A lot of his wins last year, they were on heavy. I know coming towards the end of the season, it firmed up a bit, but I could easily see him going in the Ballymore. Especially Willie just does what he wants. If the form's in, if it's an easier race, he'll take the easier race. It's a no-brainer for him.
Does he not listen to us punters? No.
What?
No.
Shock? No.
No. I thought he was
Generally,
Twitter.
a bumper winner would one favour anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and then it tees him up nicely if he wants to go Champion Hurdle, because the Ballymore Champion Hurdle is a much better route.
Than the Supreme.
Be interested to see how he goes. We'll move on to one of the premier handicaps in Ireland, probably for the whole season, the Paddy Power Handicap Chase. Won last year by Schoolboy Hours. That was my Kim Muir horse before pulling up at the top of the hill. So that was a fantastic memory for me. But ain't that a shame for Henry de Bromhead, tops the market 8-1. Donkey Years for Emmet McNamara in there at 8. Panda Boy in there as well at 8. So it's quite sort of 8-1. The rest of the field, we've got Frontal Assault in there as well. I'll come to you, Lee, first. The Paddy Power Chase. Have you got anything, a nice price for this race?
No, not a strong opinion, Ash. Kind of too many in it. Don't know who'll definitely go, but I do like Frontal Assault. I did back them the last day. Maybe that's brought them on, and if I had to pick one, Frontal Assault now, but no strong opinion.
Difficult to choose at this point. Off the mark of 142. Gav, anything for the Paddy Power?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Ain't That a Shame is probably the worthy favourite, isn't he? He's had that sort of narrow defeat to the big dog in the Munster National. He only made that mistake at the last, and he probably would have won it if he didn't. He's up £7, but then the big dog went up £8 and won the Troy Town, and he's got another 10. So that looks pretty rock solid. One at a slightly bigger price was Farcia Delage. He's interesting at sort of 16-1. He won a 0-140 handicap in cheap pieces. Last time out over sort of 2 mile 6 or just further. He ran as if the step up in trip to 3 mile would suit. His half was won over 3 mile 2, which is encouraging. The £6 rise doesn't look unfair. And he would have like a nice racing weight of 10 stone 12 as well. And the other thing I thought was interesting was the trainer Noel Mead won the race last year with Schoolboy Hours, so he knows what it takes. And he also won the 2011 running as well. So he's won a couple in the last sort of 10 years. And that could be one that could like sort of sneak under the radar as a progressing horse.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. That's probably the one horse I was coming into this race with. Like, he was 4th to French Dynamite in his beginner's chase. Obviously, that's got him on the Paddy Power at Cheltenham, is now rated 151. Also beat Zofien, which is back behind him there. That's a 133 side horse there. And I thought he was always winning at the line last time out. I think the step up, the extra £6 won't be an issue, and the step up in trip's going to be right up his street. So Fast de Large for me, definitely 16-1 for Noel Mead. Pete, do you have anything for the Paddy Power?
Yeah, obviously, you don't really want to be betting into these markets at the moment because you don't know who's going to run and what the ground will be. But I did think Panda Boy was interesting. Maybe not so much at his price now because he's shortened up since declarations. I think you'll probably be getting double figures on the day with, like what Gav's saying, with Ain't That a Shame's a more likely sort of favourite. I mean, I could easily see him being 12-1 or bigger, but you look at his profile and he just screams that this has been almost like a handicap plot ready for the big run. He's only had 3 runs over fences. His best run of the season was at Leopardstown last year at this sort of time when he beat Winter Fog in the Potemps qualifier, and then everyone was raving about Winter Fog. And that form, everyone was like, this form is going to be brilliant going forward. And it turned out to be okay, but it wasn't fantastic. But then he bolts up in May, and then he's come back, and he's had 2 pretty swift runs in November. And you'd almost think that that's to tee him up, get the handicap mark ready, and then to go for this. And I think it would just be one of those. He definitely doesn't look like a top group horse. It'll be either he is very well handicapped and this is his day, or he's just not at that sort of level. And one at a slightly bigger price, who it might not end up being his day, is a Pencil Full of Lead, who's going to be top weight. But he's been off. He's been sparingly raced because he's been off. He only raced twice last year, but it's good to see him back. But you look at his back form, like with Cole Reevy, beat latest exhibition, Cocoa Beach, in behind Eclat de Rear, and he could end up well handicapped. He might not even run, and obviously he looks like he's being lined up for something because he's come back again. So he's one to get in your notebook.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that
and
one.
A big price. Yeah,
massive price. Yeah, so a couple shouts there for Pete. We'll give it to Harry finally before we move on to the Welsh National. What do you fancy for the Paddy Power?
It's not a big one.
Just to let you know, Harry, Lord of Mesnil doesn't run in this race, just in case you're wondering.
I'm waiting for that one. No, really keen for that. But no, it's not one that I've got a massive fancy in. As was mentioned previously, it's such a wide open race. We don't know what's going to go. The money horse donkey is for the Emmet McNamara team. The 16-1 into 7-1. It's absolutely crashed in. But for me, I like Captain Kangaroo, but he has been busy. He's been really busy over the summer. And whether it's that's taken a lot out of the horse, we don't know. But I do think he's still well handicapped. Whether that's good enough to win this race, because there's going to be something with about £20 in hand. It's just you gotta hope that you're on the right one, isn't it? Really, but for me, if I'm picking one, it'd be Captain Kangaroo. Listen, I think the switch to fences has improved the horse. They landed a massive plot on him, he handicapped to things, and I think he was off 1-2-2 and he bolted in. So fingers crossed, he's still got a few pounds in hand. But listen, it's going to take one well in to win it.
Yeah, he ran off a £13 higher mark at Aintree next time out. So that's for Willie Mullins, Captain Kangaroo. I'll stick with you then, Harry. The next race we're going to be covering, the final race we're going to be covering on the 27th over Christmas, is the Welsh National. As we've sort of had a little jibe there. You got one at this
little
nibble, but we've got Quick Wave, who won very nicely for Venetia Williams last time out, 5-1. Ask Me Early for Harry Fry in there at 8. The Big Dog 8. The Galloping Bear 8 as well. Pat's Fancy in there at 12s. But Harry, we've already mentioned what you fancy, and we've already mentioned it on a video we did last week. But do explain why you like Lord de Mesnil for this race.
Well, he's just a stable legend for Richard Hobson. He really is. He's won so much prize money. We actually, funnily enough, mentioned we thought the horse was older than what he is. He's only a 9-year-old, and it seems to me like he's about 16. It's just baffling, really, because he's just been around so much. But listen, if this ground, and obviously it looked a little bit tacky today and a little bit soft, it's going to be like that in places. If we get any more rain, you're going to be looking at soft, you're going to be looking at heavy, proper winter ground, and this is what this horse relishes. Now, if you just look at his recent form lines, he was given no sort of winning chance at all. He was thrown out the back by Paul O'Brien. He went past beaten horses like it was nothing, finished 4 lengths behind the Coral Gold Cup winner Lamilos. That enough for me is really good form. I think he went up £1 so he'll be off 146 this time. All the boxes are ticked. Now, if he goes from the front, you're going to have horses in behind. They'll be toiling. So many horses will hate that ground. This horse won't. Now, he's won at Haydock, and when it says it's soft at Haydock, we all know you mean you're swimming. And listen, it might be soft, it might be heavy at Chepstow. Come the big race, and I think he's got a massive chance. I think he's around 16-1 still, so there's still a little bit of value, boys. Listen, if you want a Christmas present, you might have one there. The
value. Harry, I'm going to mention a horse that you were so sweet on last year.
Because if he wins, I'll be sick.
Pat's Fancy for Rebecca Curtis. I think it's simple. He's probably a very, very good horse and probably one of the better horses in this race. And he's off quite a low mark. He's still young. He's a 7-year-old. He was second to Brave Man's Game at Newbury off 143. He comes into this race a pound lower. He really made Brave Man's Game work that day when Brave Man's Game was on 159. He bolstered up at Chepstow beforehand to beat Imperial Alcazar. That horse bolstered up at Cheltenham on Trials Day to beat Beakstown by 10 lengths. Won at Chepstow before that as well. So he's got really good course form. He's off a mark of 142. Why don't you like him?
Because I did my brains on him at Cheltenham. I thought it was an absolute good thing. And I was like, I can't do it to myself, because every time I say, yeah, this horse is so good, this horse is going to win, all the boxes were ticked and he just didn't fire. Now, Cheltenham might have not been it. I think it was a little bit too quick for him, but it was quite interesting because you talk about his Cheltenham run where he beat Imperial Alcazar. Now he was following in, I can't remember the horse's name. He was following a similar path that Rebecca Curtis took to.
You mentioned this last year.
Yeah, I can't think.
So.
I can't. Yeah, so they were following the exact same path. Go to Chepstow, then go to a race. I think it was a little bit different. They went to a Nubia race, and then they went to the National Hunt race. Now listen, he could. I think he is well in, but.
Harry, do you know who didn't do his brains on the National Hunt Chase? Myself, because I'm Nap Statler. Pete, what do you fancy? What do you fancy for the Welsh National?
I am rowing in with the Galloping Bear. I think
Lovely.
this has been a long-term plan. The main thing is looking back. You look back at his form, and exactly as the lads have already been saying, you look at his Haydock form where he won off 140. He beat Bristol de May in that mass bog, and Time to Get Up when he was on a going day. He obviously got disqualified for that run when he was running off 140, which meant that they couldn't put him up in the handicap. So he's now come back round again, and he's still running off that same mark. And to put it simply, like when he runs, his form is 1-1-1-3 when completing, and so he's a steady galloper. But the weird thing is that he's very, very unexposed compared to you look at all of these horses. Most horses in here who are 9 years old have probably got about 30 runs to their name, and this is still the Galloping Bear doesn't have a lot of form to his name still. So I just think he stays all day. The conditions will suit. The more rain will suit, and he's the one for me.
Yeah, he was disqualified. Was it for a banned substance? Is that correct? It found out a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, something like that. But
yeah, I thought so.
Obviously, the only bonus for this is the fact that it just pushes. Obviously, they can't put his handicap marks. Got to stay at 140.
Yeah. 8-1 for Ben Clark. Gav, what do you fancy for the final race we're going to be covering with you lots, the Welsh National?
Well, you're going to laugh because I've got two, and one of them.
I've already laughed.
One's Pat's fancy, and one's Lord de May Neil.
There though, one of them is joining you in the asylum, Harry, with Lord de May Neil. If it's
there we go. There we go. It's taken us 29 minutes, but we've got there.
I'll keep him company. So yeah, I've got two. So if I go to that one first, because you already kind of partly covered it off. So yeah, if it went very soft or heavy, Lord de Mesnil he looks to have a solid chance. He found, as Harry said, the eventual kind of Hennessy winner too good last time. Got raised only £1 for that. He's £3 below his last winning mark. He ran in the 2020 edition of this. It was ran in January 21 off 152 and finished 9th. He's now £6 low off 146. He could run off 10 stone 11. And yeah, if it went very soft, and particularly if they got a good claimer on board to take him even further down, I think he could be a serious bet in that. And the other one that I thought was interesting was Jericho Rock. So I put him up for the Coral Gold Cup or the Hennessy or the Ladbroke Trophy or whatever they call it nowadays. And he finished third. And he just didn't have the pace of the front two. He stayed on well, but yeah, he just couldn't go with them. And basically, after the race, they said that he would have wanted it softer. His prep wasn't ideal. And after all these kind of excuses, they could well just be excuses. But if it's all genuine, then you think, well, if you mark that up and he ran third, then he's only going to get sort of better and better, really. He obviously ran a Stormer in the Ultimate. He's ran a Stormer in the Hennessy. And they basically said they're working back from the 2024 Grand National and that he'll want extreme trips. So, yeah, the fact that he goes here could be very interesting, particularly if he can get in because he'll be off 10 stone 4. And I think he'd be an absolute cracker of a bet if he can get in off 10 stone 4. I think most of the market's around sort of 10 to 1, but bet 365 for 14s, which, yeah, I think is a cracker of a bet. And yeah, if it goes complete bog, then all aboard the Lord Mesnil.
I'd just be careful because David Park did come out recently and he did go while he is in the Welsh National. He doesn't know whether he'll come out. He did mention that Remastered, obviously the pair of them went to the Coral Gold Cup, but apparently Remastered came out better just after the race. So that it might be a little bit of a doubt, but no, I completely agree as well.
And also be careful on Lord de Mesnil because obviously Harry's put it up.
Ignore it.
Alex, you get the final say on the Welsh National. What do you fancy for this race?
Well, I also agree with Gav about Jericho Rock. I was all over him last year at the festival. I was desperate for him to run in the Kim Muir, and he ended up running in the Ultima, finished second. So yeah, I was gutted. So firstly, Jericho Rock. I mean, Gav's already gone through the reasons. The other one I like is Ask Me Early. He was favourite for the race last year, but he had a full while he was schooling a couple of weeks before. Harry Fry said it's been the long-term target for him. He's actually won at the course 3 times. He's won on heavy ground, soft ground, and good ground. So whatever the ground comes up as, I wouldn't be worried at all. He ran in the same race as Lord de Menil when they both finished just behind. Behind the horse that ended up winning the Hennessy. So the form from that race looks really good. I think he'll be off a weight of 10 stone 3, which is an absolute feather. And I think he's crying out for this step up in trip.
Very nice shout. Obviously, we know Harry Fry's a very good target trainer. He nearly did it with Gin Coke at the festival, so you can have a better trainer to have for this race.
No, I mean, I think the only trainer I'd say is probably better as a target trainer would be Skelton. I mean, he seems to do it every week, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Ask me early. That'll be my selection. Not much of a price now. I think he's about 8 to 1, 9 to 1, but
yes.
I've got a quick mention for mine. Just if I can jump in because
oh yes, of course, yeah, go for it.
The race is actually named in memory of Kim Gingell, so Freddie Gingell's mom, and also obviously Joe Tizard's sister, and he's got 3, I think, in the race. Oscar Elite, Fiddler on the Roof, but I really like the horse, the Big Breakaway. I think the last day he ran Venetia's horse ahead, I think it was, but given a lot of weight away. They pulled a long way clear, and that was round Haydock. Like Harry says, it gets a bit of a slog, but that was over 3 mile, 1.5, up £4. But I think that does have a shout. But just to mention, you'll get plenty of places on the day, so I wouldn't go wading into these handicaps just until you know what's happening. So plenty of places about, and obviously gamble responsibly.
The Big Breakaway for Lee. And I'll give one final shout to Secret Reprieve, the horse who won it last year, off the same mark as when he did win it. Is it last year he won it or the year before? No, it was last year.
No, last year was that I Will Do It or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that
I Will Do It. He was back in 5th. He must have won it. He must have won something before that.
Yeah, before, yeah.
Yeah. So, 2021 it said on the screen. Yeah, that'll be it. 2021 he won this renewal. And I think he's got a cracking chance now. He's off the same mark, 134 there. Obviously, he won the Welsh national trial before that off a mark of 130. Absolutely bolted up there to beat the Two Amigos, beaten by 12 lengths. He was second in the Welsh national trial last time out to Faraday, about 80 lengths behind. This will probably be his ultimate aim from Evan Williams. Fingers crossed he can win this and then get into the Grand National. He's been trying for 2 years now to get into the Grand National, to get off a high enough mark. Fingers crossed this year's the one. I'll give Secret Reprieve a little shout there. Before we finish with you lads, this can be off any of your races that we've mentioned on the 27th, or it can be of any Christmas race that is going on this year. I'll go for your naps from the 3 of you. So we'll go to Pete first. What will be probably your best fancy at this early stage?
Well, we've only really, to be honest, we've only really got Boxing Day to aim at, just because it's the Kempton card's one of the only ones lined up. I don't know whether he'd be my nap, but I do think Brave Man's Game is going to take some beating. I think it's brilliant having La Home Press, because now we've got that Brown advisory run. It'll be like the race that should have happened at Cheltenham.
Yes.
They'll now have. I just don't want to see it get bottomless the day before, because they don't know how much rain they're going to get Christmas Eve. So I think if there's enough rain so that it's, say, good to soft, or maybe good to soft in places, I think it'll be brilliant. Brave Man's Game, La Home Press, Hitman. Like people saying this race is weak compared to some of the others. Like we've had terrible King Georges in the past. So it's not like this isn't anything new. So at least it's competitive and it's got some unexposed runners. So whilst it's not a strong nap, I backed Brave Man's Game 11 months ago. So I'm holding on to that ticket dearly. Only 6 to 1. It was after he'd won the Corto Star.
That's good enough.
So,
lovely price.
But it's only good enough if it wins, though.
It's still value. It's still value.
It's a value loser. I've also got it on. I've got it in a big double with Gallopin de Champs for small amount of money, about £15. And if Brave Man's Game wins, it means I'm on for £3,000 for Gallopin at Gold Cup.
Come on.
Ooh,
yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's the little ones.
I know one lad that's definitely mentioned this horse already is Josh Stacey. He's a Brave Man's Game fan. So, we'll talk to him. Gav, what were your best bets of the whole Christmas period?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm in the same boat as Pete. So,
on at 4s is my sort of single bet. So I got stuck in at that.
And I did actually have him. It was one of those, you have those horses you just stick in every multiple in the hope that everything comes in, and then you just like Pete Scott with Galloping the Champ if this comes off. He was my horse with all the Cheltenham multiples. I had Brayman's Game for the King George just stuck in at the bottom of them. And all the Cheltenham horses just that I had in multiples have let me down. So yeah, I'm just relying on that single at fours. But yeah, I just think that the home press will make it a good race. But I just think around Kempton, it's Brayman's Game's race to lose. I'd be more worried. I know Pete's not a big fan of the horse, but Hitman is. I've said to people, write him off at your sort of peril when he got beat by Riders on the Storm, wasn't it? And I think, going up to 3 Mile, he's the unexposed horse, and he could surprise. And I know Nichols has had like a habit of he's done it in the past, like St Calvados almost come from nowhere. Was it last year or the year before? And you just worry that could happen. And obviously you've got Envoy Allen in there. And if he did turn up at his best, obviously he's a serious horse, but there's a lot of doubts there. So yeah, Brayman's Game is my bet of the Christmas period.
The only issue, obviously, with Brayman's Game for the King George is because Josh Stacey likes him. So just take that into account with your betting this year.
I don't care who likes him if he wins.
It's sweet, isn't he, Josh? That he put out way in advance on Twitter that he'll win the 2022.
That's the biggest gamble he's ever done in his life. That's a 1 in a million shot that comes off again, I tell you. Alex, what would you be your best bet for the Christmas period?
I really like one of Joseph O'Brien's. He's got one in the juvenile hurdle called Nusret. It's one of the nearest horses.
Oh yeah.
I think he's going to be the Triumph Hurdle winner. I really do. Just the way he quickened after the last when he ran at Punchestown at the end of November just really impressed me. He was then due to run he was entered for both Cheltenham and Doncaster in December for those meetings that were both called off. And quite happy to see that he's been just entered now straight into a Grade 2 race. I hope he runs. At the moment, I think he's about 5-1 with Paddy Power.
Yeah, the price will be at 5s.
Lovely.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice price.
You know what price he is for the Triumph? So?
16s.
Something, yeah.
I think we
16s.
had Dawn was on last week or the week before, wasn't she? And she absolutely loves the horse. That was her nap going forward for Cheltenham.
Yeah, no, he's a really smart horse. Really, I completely agree with you.
I agree.
Just that turn of foot was just so impressive.
Yeah. His flat form as well. From the race that Solcombe won at York. Forgot what the race is called now. That's really, really good form. Yeah. So Nusret runs in the 110 on Boxing Day. So brilliant shout there, lads. It's been emotional. Thank you very much for coming on. Got their Twitter handles on the screen there for them to follow. Thank you very much for coming on. I hope you all really enjoy coming on the Christmas special over here.
Thanks, lads.
Yeah, thanks, lads. Have a good Christmas.
The best.
Yeah,
no,
cheers.
brilliant. Thank you very much, lads, and good luck with all your bets. Thank you very much. Splendid as always. You can sit in the background and watch us talk some dribble with Stacey, who's on our screens now. So
here he is.
Do you want Stacey? Where's the poster you had on the background? Go on, put it up. This is what I was seeing on my screen the whole time. This is what I was seeing on my screen the whole time.
It was just incredible. I switched on and I heard Brave Man's Game wins the King George. Brave Man's Game wins the King George. It's a shame about the Hitman call, but it was what a time to be alive. What a time to flick on.
And we're on to our final guest now of the Christmas special. We've had the lads on talk about the 27th. We had Josh talking about Boxing Day. And we've got a nice regular coming back on. He's invited us onto our podcast in the past. And we've had him on our live show on Twitter. It's Emmet Kennedy of TalkSport fame of the best podcast in horse racing. Emmet, thank you very much for coming on. How are you?
How could you not be good, lads? It's coming up to Christmas, favorite time of year. We've got stars as far as the eye can see in the racing game as well. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about for Christmas.
Definitely. We've had a few sort of cancellations throughout the week, so we should have some competitive cards to go for. Fingers crossed we can have some good clashes. And the first race we'll be talking about is the Grade 1 Jack de Bromhead Christmas Hurdle over in Leopardstown, not to be mistaken with the Christmas Hurdle at Kempton on Boxing Day, but that's over 3 miles. We've got Flooring Porter topping the market 11-4. Classical Dream sharing the same price at the same price 11-4. Bob Ollinger 7-2. Home by the Lee 13-2. You can have what you like about the rest, Emmet. You can have the floor. What do you fancy for the Jack de Bromhead Christmas Hurdle?
Goes without saying, this is a huge thing for Ryanair to do and for Michael O'Leary to do to name this race in honor of Jack de Bromhead and not call it the Jack de Bromhead Ryanair Christmas Hurdle. I've great admiration for that. And look, there won't be a dry eye in Leopardstown or watching racing TV if Bob Olinger goes and wins, and I think he will. I didn't know what to make of his comeback run at Navan initially. I know there was plenty of people who took a real positive to the Liz Mullen, and there were plenty who took negatives to it. I was somewhere in the middle, but I've rewatched it several times over the weekend, and I rewatched it again tonight, and I think it was a very pleasing comeback and just the step back in the right direction for him. I never really liked him as a chaser. I told anybody who listened to me to fill up the satchel on Galopin de Champs. Oh dear, and that didn't exactly work out particularly well. Festival winning novice chaser, but he's not a natural chaser. And I suspect that he needed that comeback, and that was to put him right. This is his big day to shine, and there's no real excuses for him here. Classical Dream definitely sets the standard in the sense that he's a multiple Grade 1 winner. He won this race last year, and he's finished it for front of Honeysuckle last time out. That was a tough race. I was there, and it was a very tough race. And I'm not so sure if this is what he wants 24 days later, come race day, to come out and line up here again. And I would be a little bit nervous that there's going to be a repeat of the Gorn race on Thyestes Day, that we might see a little bit more of that with him. Yeah, that genuinely concerns me with him. Flooring Porter is Flooring Porter. He's a rock solid racehorse, and he's probably going to win the Stayers Hurdle again this year, but he's better at Cheltenham in March than he is right now. As much as I love the racehorse, I think this suits Bob Olinger perfectly. It will be quite emotional when he wins, but I think this is absolutely the right thing to do with him. I think going back over hurdles is the right thing to do with him. He's an exceptional talent. He's unexposed over this distance. Back over hurdles on his second start back this season, he'll take all the beating.
He's obviously a class animal. And I remember when we came on the Final Furlong podcast, Emmet, it's just me and Lee. I said how I was never really a fan of Bob Olinger, and I'm still not a fan of Bob Olinger. So it's good to see you're still keeping the faith. He's just a class act here, isn't he? He's going to be taking a lot of beating, isn't he, here, Emmet?
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's also worth bearing in mind that this is a Cheltenham Festival, a dual Cheltenham Festival winner, for all that he was incredibly lucky last season. I'll let that go now. No, I'm still in therapy about that. But what he did to Brave Man's Game was champion hurdle class. Like, if he had stayed over hurdles, he probably would have been going for a champion hurdle. And had they chosen to do that, he'd have been a proper one for Honeysuckle to consider. But novice chasing tends to be what he does at the de Bromhead Yard. Chose to do that. He did win a race at Cheltenham. He was brutal at Punchestown. But he has all of that ability. That's still there. The question about him on his comeback was, is Bob Olinger is his raw natural talent, as my mouth words could work properly, is the raw natural talent still there, and is the ability still there? It very much is. And the fire still burns as well. This is the proper race for him. And on the back of this, they'll be able to decide what exactly they want to do. But it would be disappointing if he's not going to be a major player in the Stayers Hurdle next season, or this season, as you were saying, but next year.
Definitely, yeah. Lee, would you be agreeing on those Bob Olinger comments for the Jack de Bromhead Christmas Hurdle?
I would. I know you two lads, Harry as well as you, Ash, are not so keen on him this season, but I kind of agree with Emmet. I think the stable was wrong. Henry de Bromhead's was wrong on his last run. The same we've seen with Applitard and stuff like that. That a low strike rate. I think in the fortnight he ran, it was even 7 or 9%. They're now up to 28% in the last fortnight. They had a couple of winners at the weekend. A lot more going for them this time round. I just think the yard was wrong at the time. Like Emmet says, not a dry eye in the house if Bob Olinger takes this one. Flooring Porter, I think they'll get a lot closer this time round. And Classical Dream had the same view as Emmet, that almost like a Galmai hurdle run, that it maybe's bomb out because it's so close to the race. I think once a bit fresher. And look, I'll take Bob all day long.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Emmet's just popped off our screen. We'll get him back in a second. Harry, I'm not a fan of Bob Ollinger just in general. I can never really get the horse right, and I'm not too convinced about his run last time when he was beaten by Home by the Lee, who obviously reappears here today. What do you make of the Christmas hurdle here? I like one at a price which I've mentioned in a previous video, but I'll let you take the floor on this Jack Bromhead Christmas hurdle.
It's a tough one for me, Ash, because Flooring Porter, it was quite interesting. I thought that when Davy Russell was on Racing TV on the I think it was filmed with Ruby and Lydia.
Yeah,
he mentioned
live at the track. Yeah,
it was live at the track. I can't remember what track it was off the top of my head, but he mentioned in that race he thought it was a stronger race, and he thought that Flooring Porter, and I know he was obviously beat, but he thought he was beat from a while out, which I thought was interesting. Now, obviously, he tipped up in the race last year in the Lismullen, but he was beat easy in this. Now, yes, he's a better horse at Cheltenham, but I thought Bob Ollinger, the way he travelled into the race. Now, I've admitted I'm not a fan of him, but the more I look at this race, the more I just think he's just tailor-made for it. And I think the step up to 3 miles, he's won a point over 3 miles. He's stepping up for the first time at this trip over hurdles. All the boxes are being ticked, and I just think that Classical Dream got an easy lead in this last year. Now, he was getting closed on all the way to the line. He won't get that again this year. He had a hard race, as Emmet mentioned, before he went off. He had a hard race a few weeks ago, that's surely got to put an impact on him. I mean, he might be a versatile horse, but he's better fresh in my eyes. 21 days, however long it was. It's a quick turnaround. So, for me, I thought Bob Ollinger's run was really, really well. And he just got run out of things in the later stages. But Home by the Lead, that horse, despite a little walk in the market in the last week or so, he looks sure to run another strong race. But for me, if I'm taking one, it's Bob Ollinger.
It looks like I'm taking all three of you on, because I am in the Zanahiyr camp. We mentioned it on last week's video. We talked a little about the Christmas racing. 10-1 Zanahiyr. I'm going to keep this short because I've already talked about him, but I think he's always been looking like he can step up to this 3 mile distance and become a bit more of a stayer. He showed glimpses of it in his run at Aintree when he fell behind Epitante. He was held that day, but he was still staying on nicely. I thought he could have done something nice there. It'd be a first step up to 3 miles. Fingers crossed. Zanahiyr, quality animal.
What happened the last day with Zanahiyr? Would you say it just needed the run or not?
Yeah. I like a lot in that race. Flooring Porter being one of them, Classical Dream stuff. There was a lot in that race who needed the run again, and I'd be completely putting a line through that.
The one, the double, if it win at Christmas and go on to the stairs for Zanahiyr,
66-1. That's very interesting. But it'd be Zanahiyr for me at these this current price is 10-1. Fingers crossed he can run a big race.
Ash, can I quickly mention that we quickly mentioned on Henry de Bromhead and his form from November, where was when Bob Ollinger ran. Now, listen, he had 9 winners in the whole of November, and he had an awful time of things. Now, he sent half of the runners that he has in December already, and he's already on, I want to say, 7 winners. So it shows
they're definitely coming to form.
28%.
They're definitely coming to form. Yeah,
was very low for a good few weeks. He was 7 to 9%, I think, area. 28%. Today so far. So
it shows something, doesn't it? I mean, you look at the last 4. I think his last 4 runners, 3 of them have won. Yeah. Now it shows something, doesn't it? Really, especially when you've went the whole.
And they're winning well.
November.
They are.
I mean, I don't think we'll mention the horse that was in the pocket today.
Yes,
That was impressive. I thought, but no, that's a different story for another day. I'm sure Emmet will get it on the podcast. I can see him in the corner there. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about that horse in the podcast to come.
Definitely. And while we've got Emmet here, while connection's still going, Emmet, we'll talk about the Savills chase, the race after on the same day. There's Aputard in there at 3-2, top in the market for Henry de Bromhead, as we've mentioned. Conflated for Gordon Elliott, Statler for Willie Mullins, making his first run since he won the National Hunt Chase. There's some nice horses entered in here. If all of them go, it'll be a cracking race. What do you make of this year's Savills?
Savills Chase is a fascinating renewal. Look, again, take on board everything that's been said about de Bromhead's form. I fully echo it. I think things were not right at that yard. For one reason or another. And then obviously we talked about a police hard very briefly at the start of the show. or at least the start of my segment of the show, and that was miserable at Haydock. That was a shocking comeback in the Betfred Chase. Way too bad to be true. So bad that he may very well have ended up running in a Betfred Hurdle if he kept that kind of nonsense up. But he would have been long odds on not to run over Christmas because he was so bad there. And now we have an excuse. We have a reason why he bombed out, and suddenly he's in contention. Do you want to back him at 6-4, beaten in last year? I'm not so sure about that, but he was very good in the race 2 years ago. He was a brilliant Betfair Chase winner. He was a brilliant Gold Cup winner, and he's absolutely the one they all have to beat. But he's 6-4. I'll look elsewhere. Conflated is interesting on his day, but I would be inclined to go with something of a little bit more unexposed than the horse that I'm. Statler was due to run in the originally scheduled John Durkin Memorial. And intriguingly, he was absent when Galopin Des Champs rivals on Monday. And suddenly he's a bit of a gamble for this race. And it makes sense. Ronnie Bartlett went last year with Galvin, and Galvin might go back for this race again. He probably will. And maybe Willie Mullins would rather run him on New Year's Day in the other Savills Chase, which he's farmed over the years with Album Photo. But if he rocks up here, he's a major player. And he's a major Grade 1 staying chase contender this season as well. Mm-hmm. He very much deserves his place in the lineup. He stays well. He jumps well. The amateur rider, not quite 4-miler Chase has thrown up some very good horses in the past. It's thrown up some boats as well. He's a very, very good horse. And I think the 7-2, look, I'd like bigger than that, but it's reasonable. And if Willie Mullins unleashes him here, he's got to be a major player. I would be very, very interested in Statler, and I think 7-2, 4-1, I think that's fair.
No, definitely. We mentioned Statler earlier in the video. Very nice horse, very nice winner of the National Hunt Chase. So it'll be interesting that he goes for same connection as won it last year with Galvin. Harry, what do you make of this race? Because I have quite probably one of my strongest fancies of the whole Christmas period running in this race. But what do you make of the Savills Chase?
Well, I can't wait for you to put up Hurricane Georgie in this and say it's one of your strongest fancies. It's just going to be silly. But no, listen.
Probably a cliff horse of Ash there.
Oh, it might well do. But A Plus Tard, I absolutely love this horse. And it broke my heart when he was pulled up. But as we mentioned, the November time for the De Bromheads, there was clearly something wrong with those horses. Now, they're hitting form now. If he was to hit any sort of form, I think the race wasn't run to suit. I thought he was pushed out of it by Galvin in last year's renewal, but people might slate me for that. But I'll die by the sword. He was the best horse in the race. He proved it in the Gold Cup. He's the best staying chaser. I think he'll beat Galopin Des Champs in the Gold Cup. I think he's overpriced now. I think 6-4 isn't the play in this, but I think the play in this race is backing him for the Gold Cup. I think because if he wins this, he's not going to be 9-1 anymore. Like that's going to be long gone because he'll show that he's back to his normal self. He's the best chaser. I think he's rated under. Is it 180 over here? Now the others, I think the closest one in there is Galopin Des Champs, who's 172. He won't go. Conflated's got £12 to find on official ratings, and the rest are just not as good as him. Now there is one at a nice price, Ash. Manila Indo. Now, we mentioned the De Bromhead horses are starting to come back to form. Now, if Manila Indo was to come back to any sort of form, he could run a nice race, and he is 12-1. He is a class act. He was run out of it in the Gold Cup by a better horse than him. But if you don't fancy A Plus Tard, I wouldn't tell anyone not to have a little play on Manila Indo. But for me, I'd love to see A Plus Tard, but I won't be playing him at 6-4. I'll be playing him at 9-1 for the Gold Cup.
Very interesting shouts there from Harry. Lee, do you echo any of those thoughts about A Plus Tard? I know you're a massive fan of the horse.
This is what I love. Do you know what it is?
What's that?
Biad. That's what I love. I'm exactly the same. Get stuck into a bit of 9-1 for the Gold Cup because I think the horse will come back. I always forgive a horse one run, and I'll definitely forgive the last day. Henry's come out and said there was something amiss. The yard wasn't in top form. There's something amiss. Forgive the run, and I think definitely take this race. Statler and Conflated are the ones to chase him home in that order. A Plus Tard, Statler, Conflated for me, and I think the horse will be back. And then it'll be half the price for the Gold Cup. Look, just while we're mentioning, obviously Galloping Deschamps ran yesterday. When you're looking at the Gold Cup market, look, the race is not going to be run the same each year. Obviously, Applutard got it almost ended up into a sprint and bolted up the hill there. Galloping Deschamps, I've seen people mention about like the likes of Florida Pearl, whether the horse can then go and do it in the Gold Cup. It's yet to be seen. In this that unique test of 3 mile 2 and a bit round Cheltenham, it can't be replicated. So I'd rather stick with the proven horse in Applutard, and 9-1 I think is too big.
You've mentioned the winner of this race, Lee, but unfortunately you mentioned him in the wrong order. It's obviously quite obviously
for you, Ash. I know it is.
Quite obviously conflated winning this race, and I can keep banging this drum left, right, and centre that this horse is a different animal over 3 miles. He really, really is. The bookies couldn't give him away last time we ran at Down Royal behind Envoy Allen in the Ladbrokes Champion Chase, whatever the race is called. They couldn't give him away. He drifted all the way out to 13-2, having been like 4-1, 3-1 anti-post, and he ran a belter of a race to finish 4 lengths in third. He then, before that, was at Aintree. He stayed on from a different postcode to finish second in basically the Clanderzoe Memorial Race, also known as the Betway Bowl. So, like, this horse is just incredible. He was going to finish second to Allaho. He was going to be the next best Allaho in the Ryanair over his wrong distance. And before that, he absolutely smashed up some nice horses in the Irish Gold Cup, beating Milenarindo by 6 lengths quite comfortably. Like, I seriously like this horse quite a lot. As people know, I've already mentioned him for the Gold Cup, 50-1.
You should have mentioned Ash.
Huh? Did you back? Hang on a second. Did you back that certain Facile Vega for the bumper at 20-1? I could not remember him.
I did. I actually got a tattoo to remind myself every day, to be fair, as well. So.
But look, conflated. Like the maths doesn't work in my head. How he can be 5-2 for this race and 50-1 for the Gold Cup? That doesn't add up in my head, because we know he goes well round Cheltenham. You can say that he fell and that's not good enough, but he was going the best, and he will go to the Gold Cup. I'm fairly sure about that. I'd be surprised if they go back to the Ryanair with him, because he's probably going to be one of my Gold Cup horses last season if he went.
Is he like a Don Cossack mould or not?
I don't know, because I don't know, because like Don Cossack was like, it's tough to tell, to be honest. Don Cossack was a little bit. I didn't really pay much attention to him when he won his Gold Cup, so I couldn't really make comment. But conflated, the maths doesn't work in my head. How he can be 5-2 here and 50-1 for the Gold Cup. I'll take both prices, and that's the Savills done and dusted from our end. On the 29th, the Grade 1 Neville Hotels Novice Chase over 3 miles. Gaillard de Ménil is at the top of the market, 11-4. Classic Getaway at 3. Melena Kakuna at 7-2. Emmet, if you can hear us, what do you fancy for the Neville Hotels Novice Chase?
Come in, London. I can hear you, London. 2 points goes to. So you guys are all too young to dial up internet, but more importantly, like actual dial-up phones when you put your hand in, and your only reference to that is like old school films. This is what this feels like. It's crazy, and it's not you guys' fault at all. It's just bloody Irish internet. I heard Jerry Cullum being mentioned earlier on. I know I was talking to you on Twitter, to one of you boys on Twitter about him. Love this horse. Very intrigued to see where he goes. I prefer Hollow Games, though. Very interested in the fact that Hollow Games has 2 options over Christmas. One, he can go for the 2 mile Grade 1 Novice Chase on St. Stephen's Day, Boxing Day, or the Neville Hotels Novice Chase over 3 miles. No Faugheen Novice Chase, no in between for Hollow Games. I love him. I liked him an awful lot as a novice hurdler, and I backed him for the Martin Pipe. Last season it didn't quite pan out. He's already looking a much better prospect over fences than he did over hurdles. The horse he beat, Heartwood, has actually come from the Applutard Graduation Academy in France, and is going a very similar route, as in he's gone over fences as a 4-year-old. And that was his first start for the Bromhead team. Again, would say the Bromhead when Hollow Games beat him by 4 lengths, but watch out for him over Christmas, Heartwood, because I think he's going to win and he'll have a good season. But I doubt very much Hollow Games will line up here. But the reason I'm focusing on him so much is because I'm very excited to see what he can do and very excited to see where they go. Josh was talking about other horses who are very clearly not going to line up in this race. There's far more entered who won't run than are likely to run on the day. And look, one that's going to get an awful lot of attention is Geraint de Masil. If he goes here, I hope he makes the market, because he's a horse that I intend to take on for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Who really stands out? Look, if they decide to take a big step up and trip with Hollow Games, I would follow him over a cliff. I'm very keen on him. This seems the ideal race for Classic Getaway. And he was really good at Goran Park. Now, the horse who was second, Manila Kakuna, I suspect is going to be better. May just be the classical Getaway on the day at Goran Park was just that little bit more savvy. If Willie decides to bring them both here, I would be pretty confident that Manila Kakuna will turn that form around. And Willie's got a good record in this race. A leading novice chaser for the season, and that's who I would side with if he were to line up. But everything falls by the wayside if Hollow Games lines up here. If Gordon decides this is the race they want to go for, then Hollow Games all day long.
Yes, it's a really interesting race. If all of these horses that are entered turn up, which is very likely they don't, but if a majority of these horses turn up, it's going to be an absolute cracker of a race. Harry, what do you make of this race? 3 mile Neville Hotels Novice Chase. They're one at a price you like, or is it looking towards the top of the market where you'd be focusing your attention?
Tricky one, because if you fancy any of the top, if you really, really fancy one, I mean, you've got Gaia de Manil at 11-4 there. That is short for a horse that's he's got a better record finishing third than any other position in its life. Then feel free to take that 11-4. For me, I thought Classic Getaway. Now, Ash, we were there at Punchestown in April, and I was sick because this horse, I think, traded stupidly low in running after travelling all over everything. I think it was Cross Hill and Fields de Dairies that was in behind that day. Now, he was demoted to third after finishing second. I thought the horse would be crying out for 3 miles. Got a test of stamina at Goran Park. It was over a 2 mile 4, but it was absolutely bottomless. I think they were swimming. Now, I think the step up to 3 miles will seriously suit this horse. I've said it since day one. Now, the last time he tried this, he was pulled up in the was it the Bartlett? Yeah, it was the Bartlett. Yeah, it was now listen, it was his best according to RPRs. It was his best performance to date in his chase run on debut. I really like the horse. I think he's a 6-year-old. He's bound to improve from that. Now, if there's any sort of improvement, I can't see why Manila Kakuna can reverse the form for me personally. So I'll be siding with Classic Getaway. I think 3-1 is fair enough because I think he's better than Gaia de Manil, and the horse just doesn't want to win. Simple as. So Classic Getaway knows how to win. So hopefully he can just reinstate his last performance and win again. So 3-1 for me, Classic Getaway.
3-1 for Harry. There's some interesting horses in this lineup for me, Lee. Probably what Josh was talking about his whole Christmas revolves around Brave Man's Game. A majority of my Christmas revolves around just seeing James de Burley. If we even get to see him on the camera, that'd be fantastic, because it's really a case of the William Mullins missing list at the moment with some of his chasers. And at the forefront of that for me is James de Burley. I really like this horse, and he's not going for the Faugheen. He's not been confirmed for that race. So this is the only race you can go to at Christmas unless they enter him for a beginner's chase somewhere later down the line before the new year. But this is the only Grade 1 race you can go for. He hasn't ran for 609 days if he goes to this race. So it's a long, long time. But I like him for the Brad Advisory. I really like him for this race if he turns up. Also, Ramilli's in there at 12-20, be another one that I like. But what do you make of the Neville Hotels Novice Chase?
I think Manila Kakuna will reverse the form with Classic Getaway. I think we'll go to this
Brave
way.
boy.
No, I do.
Taking on me.
I know. Sorry, mate. But look, he come to the last, kind of fluffed the last bunny hopped it, and it was the choice of Paul Townend in the Albert Bartlett to see him the last day over Classic Getaway, and I think he'll reverse the form. All of Willie's on going to go here. Like, he's got James de Burley and stuff entered. He's got the top 3 in the market, but I think Manila Kakuna will win this.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting race. I really hope that I really hope James DeMille turns up. It will just make my whole season if he turns up. If we see him down the hard cam, that'll be fantastic. We just see him on
Tough
that
race
screen.
to reappear though.
It's a tough race, but I think ultimately it's a competitive race, but I think it's a winnable race. If James DeMille turns up, I think he's got an absolute belting chance at 20-1. The Matheson Hurdle, the final race we're going to be covering on this whole video. It's been a very in-depth, long video, but fingers crossed everyone's still watching has had an enjoyable time. And Stateman tops the market 6-4 on for the Matheson Hurdle for Willie Mullins. Constitution Hill is there in the betting, but he's not going to go there. He's going to the Christmas Hurdle at Kempton. He was 2-1 at the time. Sharjah in there at threes. Vauban again, he's on that hit list of where's Willie Mullins' horses at 6-1. Pied Piper at 7s. Bob Holland just going to go for a different race. I'd be surprised if Tiupu turns up. Emmet, this could really cut up this race. There's a lot of Willie Mullins in here, and you could be seeing a little schooling session for the Mullins boys. But is it just Stateman and we move on?
Yeah, this is the Willie Mullins show, and it's a case of whoever he decides to unleash here, he's got control of it. That's almost the story of the Champion Hurdle, Constitution Hill aside. And obviously Honeysuckle, who may now go for the Mayor's Hurdle, depending on what happens in the Irish Champion Hurdle. We're all waiting to do. Stateman is a solid favourite. That was a really pleasing performance in the Moygiana Hurdle. He should improve for that as well. And while Sharjah these on the bounce, it takes some creative thinking to think that Sharjah can make it a fifth on the basis of what Stateman did in the Moygiana. And it was mentioned earlier on about possibly backing a Plutard for the Gold Cup now with a view to what he's going to do at Leopardstown over Christmas. And that's probably the play with Stateman. For all that Constitution Hill is by far the absolute superstar of racing, and we're all very excited, blah, 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 yakety schmackety. I'm not doing him down. Like, he's an amazingly talented racehorse, and he's by far the most exciting. But we all like to have a bet, and nobody here and no one watching should be getting stuck into a 4-11 shot for March. But a 5-1 scumbag each way bet that's going to shorten on the back of winning here, that's more intriguing. So if you want to tie up a little bit of liquidity in an anti-post bet, I wouldn't put anybody else back in Stateman for the Champion Hurdle in a scumbag each way bet right now, because he should shorten up on the back of this, and he should win it. Sharjah might chase him home. Vauban, does anyone know what's going on with Vauban? Like, when is he going to come out?
I think
it's
only one man
very exciting. He's very interesting, but where is he?
Is he alive?
Is he alive? Is he really alive until we see him? I'm not so sure. I'm still clinging to hope that Sir Gerard will line up in a Champion Hurdle trial at some point, but again, there's no sign of him either. So, look, there's nothing in here that really, in terms of a scumbag each way bet for this race itself. Stateman should win it. Sharjah is very short on the basis of the run in the Moygiana. He can't beat him. Tiapu won't go. He needs further, and he also needed a bog. So yeah, look, Stateman wins probably, and that's the angle I would take. If there's something, if you like a Plutard for the Gold Cup, then do an each way scumbag double on Stateman and Plutard, because if they both win, then they're both going to be considerably shorter for their respective races.
There is the Only Fools Love Horses nap there, the scumbag each way
scumbag each way double. That's the title of the video.
That's your guaranteed account closer. That's what that is. When your betting account gets closed, don't come back to the boys going, the bookmakers are so harsh, they're so unfair. No, that's what you're asking to get your account closed, if that's the bet you do.
Tell Denise that you've got a scumbag bet on and you want it paid.
The scummy each way double for the Cheltenham Festival. Lee, I know we spoke about Stateman when he ran last time out, and I think we both were in agreement that he was very airy at his hurdles. We thought that he's a chaser in the making, and I think we both agreed, or at least I thought, that over further he'd probably be a bit more of a useful animal. I'll hold my hands up here. I was very much not taken by his run at Punchtown. It was good in the Moygiana. It was fine, but these prices for the Champion Hurdle and all these pre-written tweets from the main account saying he's a machine, I was completely not on board with that. What do you make of Stateman at the top of the market here? He's the most likely winner, but do you think he warrants 6-4 on favouritism?
I think he does in this race. I have to disagree with Emmet. And Emmet, I'm sorry, I don't think he's an each way scummy bet in the Champion Hurdle, because look, Constitution Hill I think wins. But we do both agree, and I think he's very airy. He's not as slick over his hurdles. He may improve for that run, but it's not what I'd be taking. I'd rather take Vauban, to be honest, in the champion hurdle. And yeah, look, I think he wins this. If Vauban doesn't go, he'll beat Charger, and that's the case for this race. But going forward, it's not a horse that I'd latch on to. And look, I think Constitution Hill's got the champion wrapped up. So no scummy bet for me, I'm afraid.
There is a scummy bet for me though, Harry. Pied Piper 7-1. I'll be having each way on him because he's really stepped up from his juvenile season. Like, we see lots of horses who don't, but he has. He won fairly well at Cheltenham. Like, he had to work, but he won fairly well in his season opener, and then he's won doing handstands at Down Royal next time out. Like, I'm fully on board the 7-1 Pied Piper, and it seems that you are.
Well, it does, and I am surprised to see him at that price. Now, his RPR was 137 last time out at Down Royal, but I mean, he didn't really get out second gear, really, did he? I mean, people complaining about his jumping, but I was more than pleased with it, to be fair. I thought the only thing I'd have a little bit negative was his reappearance run at Cheltenham in the Holdings hurdle. It was basically the Triumph, because you had horses that were all four. They all basically, Night Salute ran in the Triumph last year.
The Mares Novice hurdle winner in third.
Yeah, I mean,
for this season.
Bella Scintilla case.
I don't know why I've got him started. I don't know why I've got him started now. It's taken 2 hours.
33-1, lads.
Yeah. Okay, but no, listen. It's taken us 2 hours, and we finally agreed that Pied Piper is overpriced in this, because I completely agree.
I think, but he beat Rags the last day, no?
He
still won't do handstands.
Precisely, he can't do much
he was
more.
meant to do that though. Surely that's what the price said. Like, he only done what he needed to do. Coming into this race, it's a different kettle of fish against Stateman.
It is, but then you've also mentioned that Stateman jumped his hurdles like they were trees, and Pied Piper has proven to me.
I think he's still a classy
individual,
regardless of how he jumped. But I do think his jumping needs to be brushed up.
Well, he's got 17 pounds to find on Stateman. I think that's a little bit excessive.
Yeah, I agree though.
I don't think that's true. I don't know, Emmet. I don't know whether you can see the case with Pied Piper. I'd like to bring you into this. I really like him at this price.
He's gone because you mentioned Pied Piper.
That timing is incredible. Emmet, I'd like to bring you into this. That is incredible timing. If you can't see this, if you're listening on Spotify, Emmet's connection's been tough to deal with, but we've been getting them on board. Harry goes over to him thinking, let's go and talk to Emmet, and his screen goes black. We're back. Emmet, are you here?
You right off with him when I was last on your show, previewing the open meeting in Cheltenham. Was like, Night Salute's an absolute good thing, and only for Pied Piper to come and do him. Look, he's a big player. He's a big player. He's got to be, and I take on board the enthusiastic vote for him. If Bawn was to rock up, I imagine he'd have the class edge over him. But Pied Piper comes in race fit. They don't really have much of a choice, do they? They have to go for this. They have to come here instead. I did do a little bit of checking out what Gordon has been saying in terms of where horses are going to go. Three Stripe Life is going to go for the Neville Hotels Novice Chase, and Hall Games goes for the 2 mile Novice Chase on St. Stephen's Day. So get stuck in there. We'll all following with Manila Cochrooner in that race for Willie Mullins, and happy days. To this one, Pied Piper's got to be a major player. Can he cope in Grade 1 company against Stateman and Sharjah? Don't know.
I think
maybe,
so, because he travels so well. I think because he travels, and he showed that to me, especially at Cheltenham. Off that pace, he was kind of held up, and then he was absolutely tanking. And then he showed that quickness, that little turn of foot, and he does have a turn of foot, and I think that helps him. That helps him, especially in this open company. I think that he's definitely a live player in this. He's a massive price.
I think, given the fact that Gordon Elliott is so determined to use that 4-year-old allowance on novice chasers. He did it last year with Riviere de Tel. He's doing it this year with Phil Dorr. To not do that with Pied Piper tells you he thinks he's genuinely champion hurdle class. And Brazil has already come out this season and beaten Phil Dorr. And he could be one that people are sleeping on. He could be a very quiet one for the champion hurdle. Who's to say this fella can't get there either? his official mark of 147 would put him a few pounds below, a considerable amount of pounds below him and Stateman. But is Stateman really that far ahead of everybody else here? Like, that was good in the Moygiana, but there was certainly room for improvement. And I look, he's the one who's going to take the most beating, and he's the most likely winner. But actually, the more we talk about this, the more I'm starting to come. Piper could be the one to be with. He is the ideal scumbag each way price right now. Like, you can back him at 5-1 pretty comfortably. You can probably get 6s if you shop around. I don't see him being much bigger than that on the day. And also, all of these races, King George included, are going to cut up dramatically from what they currently are right now. And this one's definitely going to cut up an awful lot. I'm not sure if Faugheen's going to line up. We know Bob Olinger won't. Tiapu won't be there. Zanahira is going further, so he's not going to be in this race is going to cut up dramatically, and that 5-1 is going to disappear. So, yeah, he's probably the each way play in the race. For all, the most likely winner is Stateman. Do you want to be backing Stateman at 13-8 on? No. So I would give Piper a really good chance here of at least getting you the scumbag place money, and he might get you the whole sweep.
Emmett's agreeing with me and Harry. That's what I want to hear. Harry, where'd you go?
Oh, no. Do you know what? I'll admit it to you.
Because
no, it wasn't, because I'm on my Mac and I was just clearing all of my browsers, and then I clicked on the StreamYard one and it disappeared. So,
oh dear. Well, we've covered the main races, and we'll go on to naps. So this will be all of us, but I'll go to Emmet first. Emmet, if you have any fancies for the rest of the Christmas period, now's your time. Go for it. If not, what's your nap of the whole Christmas period?
Well, I'm getting the circle of death here on my broadband, so I'm not going to dare show you what my tracker says. But I will say that with the horses that are currently entered for Boxing Day / St. Stephen's Day, it takes 2 pages to go through all of the horses who are currently entered.
Wow.
Literally 2 pages of the Racing Post app to finally get there. So there's a lot of options to get stuck into of everything that runs over Christmas. I think the more I think about the King George, the more I think L'Homme Pressé is the one to be with. I front runners at Kempton, and he's going to be very much up with the pace. He's the best horse in that race. For all that I like Brave Man's Game an awful lot. John Dance, I hope you're not listening. L'Homme Pressé is the best horse in that race, and I think he's probably going to win it. But the bet, gentlemen, the bet of Christmas is a horse I cannot wait to get stuck into. And I don't care who takes him on. I don't care if Royal Pagaille rocks up at Chepstow. There's only one horse to back in the Welsh National.
Come on.
You can get at least 12s. You might be able to get 14s. I can't, but you might be able to get those 14s. But I would take 10s. I'd take 8-1 with the scumbag each way 5-6 places. Right now, I'll take 10s 4 places, but places coming up. The horse to be with is the nap of Christmas is
Suspension's killing me.
Pipe, and it's strange to be so bullish about a racehorse who is yet to win over fences. But that was a cracking effort in the Hennessy. He'd run a blinder in the Ultima prior to that. The step up and trip will bring about more improvement in him. Jumper, touch wood. I can't knock him out of the frame with a mallet. He is a scumbag each way nap, and I cannot wait to get stuck into him over Christmas.
So it's Jericho Rock.
Jericho Rock, baby.
Yeah, well done, Harry. Harry. Harry's been pointing at the screen saying,
I
Lord
literally have
Mania,
had
Lord
the greatest horse.
Those
on
moans
the
and
planet.
groans are only going to sound all the sweeter when he comes home first, and there's gravy flying everywhere.
Gav picked him, didn't he? Was it Gav?
Yeah. We've had people on Emmet, and they've already gone for Jericho Rock. So you're not alone in that camp. So fair play, we like it. Good shout there, and that is the end of our video until we get to our nap. So I'll go to Lee first. Your nap of the whole Christmas period.
Look, I did say last week, Jerry Colomb was the nap. 6-4. He's into 8-11, but I think the race is tailor-made for him. That's in the Faugheen Novice on Boxing Day at Limerick. But at a bigger price, I do think Manila Kakuna will win the Neville's Hotel, and I think he's a better horse than Classic Getaway. So I stick me neck out, but I say Manila Kakuna will win that.
Thank you very much, Harry. He's done it.
Muted.
It
I,
has
know, I
started
thought
once
I'd
a
mute
video,
myself.
he
I
was
thought
muted,
I'd
and
mute
he
myself.
started
I
talking
didn't.
when he's
I didn't.
muted.
I didn't. Right. So, shall I do up a muggy treble?
Just
Muggy
do something that
fourfold?
wins. Just back winners,
something
Harry.
wins,
Just
All
yeah.
right.
back
Okay.
winners.
Well, all right. Let's have a little each way double.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
So we're gonna go with Royal Pagaille
Oh,
in the
no.
King George and Lord
Lord
Maynil
Maynil.
in the Welsh National.
Wow.
Now,
That
in
comes
fact,
off.
we'll throw our Pluton for the Gold Cup. So there's your treble. There's your treble. We'll have. I'm just gonna get it up now for you. So Ash, if you keep on, if you get the ball rolling, I will get this massive each way treble going along, and we'll be riding into Cheltenham Gold Cup day with an absolute certainty on our hands.
Well, I'll whatever Harry odds are for that, I'll double the odds because it's not going to happen. I'll take everyone's money. I'll give you my 3 best bets, but I'll give you the nap last. So I think both my handicap chances, Fasta do Large in the Paddy Power Chase and Pat's Fancy in the Welsh National, they're probably my strongest fancies of the Christmas period. But the nap, we go to Ireland, we go to the final day, the 29th, and it's Savills Chase. It is Conflated, ladies and gentlemen, 5-2. We'll take the nap there. Conflated. He's a good horse. He's a good thing, and we'll go for it there. Savills Chase Conflated. Harry, what's the odds?
I
put my spine, haven't I?
Just finding it. Here we go. We have got it. It is a 3,212 to 1 treble.
Treble.
No, look at that for a treble. Well, if you listen, throw a couple of quid each way, I definitely will. If we're all being serious, I think Champ wins the long walk. Now you can get 9-4. He will be my strongest bet over the Christmas period. I think he's tailor-made this time of year. So for me, Champ will also be playing that treble. So all the best. Thank you to everyone who's came on as well. I'm sure Ashley's going to mention it, but without everyone coming on, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So it's a massive thank you from all of us.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's the end of the year. We started our YouTube up again a couple months back. We've had some brilliant feedback and some brilliant views. So fingers crossed this video can match that as well. Thank you to all of our guests. Josh, who started on the 26th, Alex from Cheltenham Exchange on the 27th, as well as Racing Gav and Pete from Risk Rewards. And Emmet, thank you very much for coming on for the 29th and 28th. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas, Emmet. Merry Christmas.
I hope you enjoyed, Emmet.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and follow us on
and there's
Twitter.
A competition running, Ash. We've got another competition there, so there's some nice hats to be won from Racing Tees. So get stuck into that.
Check out our Twitter. Check out the Only Fools on Horses Twitter for a bit more there. And we have got our Saturday live on Christmas Eve. Am I right saying, Lee?
Yes.
We've got Johnny Deneen from Upping the Ante. So we've got Johnny Deneen from Upping the Ante coming on to the show on Christmas Eve. So that's 10:30 a.m. on Saturday. We'll be talking a bit more about him with the Christmas racing. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And we'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you.